are they, the human design? Oh, let me go here.
Oh yeah, human design, yeah. But I've never encountered you guys talking about it.
And I
see that.
Ella brought that up one time.
Agnia is really good at it.
Oh.
Or Agnia.
Jess,
Juliana.
can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know. I did something. I fucked up a little bit. I don't know. I'm like in a meeting. I did something weird. I need to get off from here. Yeah. We. Thank you, Jess. Okay. Back to me. Yeah. I'm back.
There you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Jess. I'm not like a pro, you know. Just I really like human.
You're pretty much a pro. Just fake it till you make it.
Thanks. I like human design a lot, but it's like so complex as well as astrology, you know. So it's always there's always something to learn. So, but if someone has any questions or anything, you can always message me, and I always reply if I can help you. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Somebody who is knowledgeable about human design. Yeah, I could definitely hit you in the DM.
No worries, sure.
That's amazing.
Sure.
All right, I think we'll start when one more person joins.
What happened to my internet?
How are you, Juliana? Hey.
Good. I'm at work right now.
Ooh, gotta be nimble and quiet and not let anyone know that you're on the meeting, or are you able to?
Oh, my client. I work at a salon, so my client's under the dryer right now. So,
oh, okay.
I'm like getting a couple bites in, and I'm just gonna listen in for a little bit.
Awesome.
Multitasking at its finest.
I'm not used to Zoom on my phone though, so it's weird.
Yeah, I prefer it on computer. Well, we might as well just start. It is 15 after. But I'm trying to think if I should start. I have two different things to talk about. Which one's better to start with? Because I thought more people would be here at the start, thinking out loud. Well, probably that one, the non-astrology thing. So I just think it's really important, the idea of the 8th house. I mean, so many people, 8th house or Scorpio, like so many people in their charts or just in general, like so many of the readings I do, it all comes back to this idea of death, rebirth, transformation. And I feel like it gets sort of a bad idea or a bad reputation, death, and just that idea of changing and making difficult changes. But I kind of wanted to speak about that a little bit and see how you guys have utilized that in your lives, and maybe we can get inspiration from each other. So for example, like I can speak to that idea of 8th house sun. It doesn't even really matter if you have like planets in Scorpio or planets in 8th house, but just like how you've kind of been able to let go of things, people, environments, whatever it is that may have been like really like hard to let go, but you knew you just had to do it in order to move on. For me, like it was like when I was first out, getting to Naropa University and kind of new with spirituality, I had like a lot of friends who are still my friends, but they're more friends from like my kind of party college days. And I wasn't, into astrology or into anything spiritual then. And it's not like I had to befriend them, but I had to make some pretty like difficult assertive decisions because like, they weren't like my one friend, especially Rory, he's still my friend, but like he would just message me so much and just talk to me about so many like just kind of bring up all the old times of like this funny thing that happened when we were drinking, or it was all in good heart, but like at a certain point I'm like, I'm trying, like, I was like on some astrology, like learning astrology, like really learning about meditation, like diving into all these things for the first time, and I just couldn't handle being with someone who just like, or like being that close to someone who just hit me up so often, like messaged me so often. So it was really uncomfortable, but I basically had to like one day like send him a long text being like, hey, like, I can't really like be as close with you. Like it was weird because there was never that kind of component to our relationship. me and Rory, but I kind of had to go into that kind of uncomfortable territory. And in the end, you know, just doing that kind of made it so it's not difficult for me to kind of create boundaries with people anymore. But it was that first time that was really difficult. So, and for me, that represented kind of like this full, like kind of shift, because I knew that like I wasn't going to be able to like exist in the way I exist now, while I still held on to like people from like my old days when I was completely different. And it was tough, but I'm happy I did it. So yeah, I'm wondering if anyone has like any experiences they want to share kind of similar to that. It doesn't have to be people. It can be like, you know, even like leaving your hometown, or like anything where it was like a big risk, but it led to like some deep change and kind of wisdom gained from that. If anything comes to mind for anyone.
Yeah, I can talk. I think like everybody has something, right? Everyone has like, there's a reason why we're here, most likely talking, because there must have been some catalyst to make you want to like dive deeper within yourself. And I'm sure like everything that we've all gone through has taught us something. If we actually sit with it and choose to ask ourselves the questions we really need to ask ourselves, instead of just like distraction, or not wanting to even face it because we're so scared, or just like going through the emotions. And like I feel like I'm still learning to create boundaries, like at every time, in like every time I grow or evolve or whatever, like you still have to create more and more and more and more. But it's just different. The boundaries are different, and I feel like we know how to handle them a little bit better. But still, like we still go through the same emotions, like this spiral, like confusion, and like you're like angry, and you're like, how can someone do this to me? And then you think people know better, so you have like such high expectations of everybody, and then you just think people are like you, and you're like, why don't you think this way? And it's like, but not everyone's exposed to the same things as you, or learns the same things as you, or gone through the same experiences, or learned, like, you know what I mean? So we have this whole different way of like figuring out like the person we want to be and choose to be. That's why it's like you're uniquely yourself, and there's a gift to that. But I found like this, it's for me, my boundaries are I just don't give as much attention to those people or energy. Like those are my boundaries. Like I don't say like, okay, I'm gonna do this and this and this. I just move away, because like I remember how much it like hurt me so much, like after I had gotten married, and it was just like a whole other environment with like friendships and people and places and work, like starting from scratch again. And it was like a lot of like things I need to do. I had no idea like what was gonna it turn into. Like it was just a time where I just felt like I was in this dark place, this hole, this like pit, and I just kept falling deeper and deeper and deeper, and it was like, I don't even know how to get out of this. So you're like in this victim mentality. But then the whole time I realized like I'm holding the shovel and I'm just keep digging. I just keep digging. So like instead I'm like, why don't I dig some like steps to kind of a little bit get out of there, and just like kind of like the universe like guides you. Because like when I started doing that and working on myself, and instead of trying to fix everybody else and every other thing, just focusing on myself, it led me to the most amazing connections and bridges and relationships and root system. And Jesse was one of the first ones in the beginning. And I'm like, who? And he taught me like, even when I did my first birth chart reading, and like he taught me like Saturn return and all this stuff. It just opened up myself to like what I'm capable of. And instead of like all these like questions I had and I didn't really know, it just kind of gave me a blueprint, a guide to like listen, you can do this. And if I ever feel like lost or confused, I always pull up his video again. I watch it like every 6 months, and I'm like, it's like the reminder I need with certain things. So then I remember, I'm like, because you kind of forget who you are sometimes, right? You forget what you're capable of and things like that. So yeah, that was a lot of random, I don't know to answer the question.
That was good.
No, that was really good.
That was you, Payal, when you were going through that, I related with it so much, because I think 8th house, being a Scorpio sun, not in the 8th house, but 8th house stuff, right? Because it's connected. Is I always make the analogy to like you go in as like the caterpillar and you come out as the butterfly, but in between you got the cocoon, and you're like, whoa, what's going on in here? You know, like you're all over the place. You're confused. Maybe you feel, betrayed, whatever goes on, right? And then you're just, but it almost, when you were talking through that, I think the lesson I've started to learn, even though it's taken a while, is like, how do I trust the universe and life that it's got me no matter what I'm going through? And it's like for my higher good. So if I do go in with a caterpillar, I might come out something different. It'll be okay, and it'll be even better. But if you don't know that, it can be like the dark side of, or the shadow side of, or the lower expression of Scorpio, where you strike out and you get fearful and you mistrust and you get guarded, right? But if you know that, hey, no, I'm meant to really be something different on the other end, then you go with the flow a little more, maybe. But it can be a little bit like, whoa, because this is transformation. You're not just changing something here, you're like changing the whole shebang. So yeah, it can be, but but that's part of the growth, I guess, too, right? So it's happening, and I think with 8th house, when I do readings, I'm like, okay, let me tell you, you got some stuff going through the 8th house, so it might be a little intense. You just gotta let people know you're gonna go. It's like a going in, and that's just part of it. So kind of roll with it a little bit and let all that stuff happen emotionally or whatever, because it can be, that energy that transforms is very intense. There's a needed energy to make that thing, the alchemy going from whatever it is to something else. So it has that intensity involved, but that way, that it really does force you in a lot of ways, though, to let go. Talking about letting go, I think, because if you try to hold on to everything, like that's a lesson in futility and pain, and that's no good either. So
what does the
definitely.
8th house represent again? What does the 8th house represent?
It's connected with Scorpio. In astrology, it can be connected with really merging with others. So that's why it's sometimes called other people's money or resources. It's like where you're kind of connecting with somebody else, and it's almost like you're fusing together. And so it can be financially, but it's also the house of metamorphosis, because the idea is it's almost like after Libra, the Libra house, come together with another or even yourself in a way where you completely, it's kind of like you're changing your makeup of who you are through a union of sorts.
Oh,
Yeah, like death, like a lot of times, yeah, like when you come into contact with like a new energy, it mirrors you and kind of forces you into this period of change that sometimes feels like death, because it's like you're going through, like parts of you that are no longer serving you kind of leaving, and then eventually there's this rebirth and then this complete transformation that emerges from that experience. But a lot of people with matters related to the 8th house or Scorpio, and these are just words, because and this doesn't have to be like an astrology thing, it can be very intimidating and very difficult to go through like transits, like, I don't know, what's a good one? Like, what would be really difficult, an outer planet going through your 8th house, I guess.
Is mine like Cancer right now? I sent you a chart.
Really?
Is it Cancer that's in my 8th house? I think so. Yeah.
Cancer or Gemini? Because you're a Scorpio.
I have Cancer and Gemini.
Okay.
I don't know. You can't see. I don't know if I can send this.
I can't.
Whatever the line going through is going to be the ruler of that house. Like,
okay.
Like if you see the line that begins the 8th house, what sign does it run through?
Let me see.
Hi, Kendra.
Hey. I don't know who said hey.
Hello, Kendra.
Kendra.
Hello.
Hi, Angel.
Angel, yeah.
Hi, Angel. Hi, Kendra.
What's up, everybody? I missed y'all. You guys,
So yeah, guys, to people.
Okay.
you guys want to see my crystal ball I just got?
So,
Oh.
Yeah, that looks crazy.
is this,
What is that? Is that a real crystal, or is there a light? There's a light inside
It's just
there,
me
right?
powering it up, bro. It's a quartz crystal.
that looks
Yeah.
So cool.
I got a little wand too, yo.
What? Selenite ones? Oh, you got fluorite?
No, this one is amethyst.
Amethyst.
Oh, that's amethyst? It doesn't even. Oh, wow. It looks stunning.
I wish you could spin the ball on top of that. That'd be cool.
It looks so clear, like really high quality.
Yeah, it's dope. You guys should check out this page on IG. It's called DPS Crystals. They be
DPS.
hooking it up. Yeah, they hooked me up.
Like DPS, like the letters.
DPS, yeah.
I want some crystals.
I can send some to you from to Romania.
Really?
I
Okay.
got a whole bunch. I have a whole bunch downstairs.
I don't have that many.
I'll do a show and tell one day from my crystal store.
Oh, you have a crystal
Yeah.
store?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I gotta put an order in then. For sure.
It's in Canada, right?
Hey, that's cool. It's all good.
Yeah.
No, he's in California.
No,
right?
I'm in Cali. Yeah.
Yeah, Cali has like so many crystal places. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got everything out here.
Stunning. Everybody, I went to Cali last year in October, and we just went to like Yosemite and just hiking to sequoias, and everyone's like, "Where are you?" So I'm like, "This is Cali." And we went to like every beach. We went to the observatory and went to the star party and saw all the like different planets. I'm like, "This is the best thing ever." So
Yeah,
fun.
Cali's where it's at. It is where it's at.
Yeah.
For sure.
That state. Actually, I've never really given New York enough of a chance. But I'd imagine those are my two favorite. Okay, so to people who just joined, I was we were starting off by talking about the 8th house and just kind of like how it represents death, rebirth, transformation. And we were kind of going around giving different examples. Like I talked about like my old friend, like for my partying days, and kind of like having to make the difficult decision to almost not cut him off, but like kind of just like move, like create distance between me and him, just because it wasn't like serving what I was doing. Like I was completely moving away from there. Just like, yeah, just examples, people who want to share examples of difficult decisions you've had to make that have been in the end better for your transformation and growth, but maybe were really difficult at the time. And yeah, we've just kind of been going around just like 8th house Scorpio stuff, kind of like making room, like letting something go to make room for something greater is another way. It's kind of hard to explain the 8th house into words. Would you add anything to that, Dave, of like what we've been kind of, the idea of it was?
No, like I think
like Mercury and Pisces is.
It's a letting go of attachments. Like Scorpio or 8th house is all about ultimately full empowerment of self. And so if anything gets in the way of that, it could be people, addictions, people that are, whatever, then it's like, how can you rid yourself? Because it's for your highest. And so, kind of, that's in that Scorpio way, that kind of slash and burn and kind of rid. Because so yeah, a lot of the key things there. So but it's a very psychological house as well, because in a lot of cases you're really having to get in touch with those parts of you that you've been holding that maybe have been really kind of keeping you from coming into your full power. And so you have to really kind of detach. And sometimes it's a lot of psychological work, right? Because we like our attachments. And so I was realizing finally released something that has kind of a powerful hold on us, that it's empowering for us. And so that, I think, is the beauty of the 8th house.
Yeah. Very well said. So yeah, if anyone has like any stories or just any experiences kind of where you've had to do that, and we can, I was saying, kind of having a discussion around that topic and maybe helping each other, because I know a lot of people struggle with this. So yeah, if anyone else has any
I'm going through that right
other
now.
examples.
Yeah.
Really?
Like, and I don't know. I think my 8th isn't, maybe Dave would know. I think my 8th Scorpio is in my 8th house, I believe. And Uranus, I believe, is in that. But right now I'm definitely like feeling this, like I sent you a message, Jesse, about discernment, and like, does this feel like it's resonant with me right now? And is this person taking something from me, or is it aligned? Maybe is the better idea. And I'm thinking about that with a specific person in my life, and it just doesn't seem like it's aligned right now. And which breaks my heart. But it also is like stepping into this, like, I don't know, death, rebirth kind of process with myself and like my growth and this expansion that I feel coming inside. And then like walking forward with this, it might mean that I need to not have that person in my life, you know, or have it in a different way, you know. But there's like boundaries with that process. So it's like navigating that is a little difficult for me sometimes. I have a hard time.
Yeah.
I think like that was a big thing on my trip. I went out west and I went on a road trip and I came back with this, like, this year is the year of hard conversations for me. Cause I've always like just, I like want to avoid them at all costs. I don't want to deal with them. I get really upset and triggered when I'm having conversations because I get too emotional and I can't get my expansive like thoughts into like my words, which I think is my Pisces, my Mercury Pisces thing going on, you know. But that's like an overwhelming feeling, was like, I must have these like hard, difficult conversations now. I'm like being a grown up and kind of being mature and just like stepping into my power. But that requires me to, you know, kind of meet this shadow side of myself and stepping into it. And it's like the unknown, I guess. So I don't know if that's resonant of the 8th house or if that's like, you know, but that's what it's been like calling me to reconcile some things. So yeah.
I resonate with that for sure. Like it feels like uncomfortable, right? Like when you like, for me, I've been in a relationship for 9 years, and like lately it's just been like really bad, I guess, right? I think it's one of my alignments with I think it's Jupiter opposite Uranus. It's like a long ass transit that I've been going through for like the last 2 years. And then just, you know, it's just like this relationship brought out the darkness in each of us. And it's like we're facing our shadows together. And it's like, you know, like when me and my girl, because she's not here right now. She went down to Orange County. When she leaves, it's like we argue and it's like, okay, fuck it, we're gonna break up. But then it's like once she leaves, I'm like, oh, I don't like, it doesn't feel right. We should be right. We should still be together. You know what I'm saying? But then I question myself, but I'm like, is it serving both of us? Like, are we really being our highest? Like, are we at our highest potential together? Are we pushing each other to that level, or are we bringing each other down to the deepest, darkest depths? You know what I'm saying? And so, like,
you guys,
that's how I feel.
Yeah. Do you know if you have any Pluto like synastry with her? Because you that sounds so much like what I go through, like to a T, what you just explained, and like it makes me think of like this whole idea of like a plutonic relationship. Because my girlfriend, her sun is exactly conjunct my Pluto, and it sounded very similar. Yeah, her sun is whatever Scorpio degree, 17 Scorpio.
Now that you bring it up, I think so, because my sun is opposite my Pluto, and she was like born just a couple weeks before me, so I think that alignment still might be in play. Like my Pluto might be opposite her sun, or
yeah, because her sun was in Taurus, I think. I remember looking at her chart. Isn't her sun in Taurus, and the Pluto's still in Scorpio because it was during the same year y'all were born. Yeah.
Shout out Kendra. Much love. I love you, Kendra. Thank you.
My Virgo Mercury never lets it go.
You're so fucking smart. But yeah,
I need to team up with you, Kendra. my Mercury Pisces forgets everything right away.
Sometimes I envy that, because like some of these details will be like, I can't ever forget some things, and some things you could like get rid of and make room for more, you know. I don't it's just
that's the best thing. That's the best thing to have. I love people like this.
Well,
I remember
I love it.
I have noticed the birthday thing has been since I was a child. Like I've always thought birthdays were so special. And so I think that's part of it too. As like
Yeah.
I've always needed to be an astrologer, and I've always, like I've always had this like subconscious urge to remember birthdays for some reason. So it's kind of been a thing for me.
That's badass.
That's awesome. And that's
yeah.
go ahead.
Shit, for me, I'm like the one that wants to forget. I don't want to remember details. I'm just like, smoke that shit away. Nope, I don't want to remember shit. That's how I am. But
Yeah.
that's my shadow, and that's like weed. Weed is my thing. Like addictions, like people say you can't get addicted to smoking weed, but you can get addicted to like forgetting and that like detachment of your like, your emotional self and just getting lost in the emotions and you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Anything can be an addiction, like any kind of habit, you know what I mean? Like that you use to like escape yourself or escape situations or to push other feelings down, or you know what I mean? That's kind of anything though. So yeah. Well, the one thing I wanted to bring up about the eighth house topic that we didn't really go into is like death. Like I know everybody's scared of death, like, and especially when we talk about astrology and death, there's been so much misconception over the years and different cultures of what astrologers can do, what they're capable of seeing in a chart and whatnot. And so with eighth house transits, don't anybody worry if you're having an eighth house transit that you're going to die, because there's deaths of all kinds, like even like what we were talking about, killing off a habit that you no longer serves you. That's a death in itself because it's making room for growth of something else, right? And so it has to be looked at in a huge, big format, not so, tiny. And with like anything in astrology, not just one aspect makes or breaks something. There has to be lots of indicators, especially if we're talking about death. Okay. If it's something that's like life or death like that, you have to have lots of indicators before you're going to see something like that. And, it's just all about how the cycles change and whatnot. To me, like when I think of Scorpio and the eighth house, it's really so like that oxymoron thing, right? Because its traditional rulership was Mars, but it's a feminine water sign, right? So what do we do with that? Like, to me, I really feel like it's that abundant amount of emotion. I'm going to try to do this without like crying over it. Gets me a little, that women feel that can sometimes rule their entire lives. Like when we think about how powerful our feelings are, sometimes it's overwhelming. And I know a lot of women feel like that they have to shut that part of them down because they overwhelm others. So I kind of think of that in that sense, is that feeling of overwhelming emotional connection to things that are deeper than what is surface level. Like if you get to the bottom of it, because it is the water sign. So it is that feminine receptive type energy, but it is in that very in your face Mars Pluto way. So, like I feel like that's the eighth house kind of expression is just like that raw emotional, feeling. So I don't know. Those were the two things that I always think about with the eighth house, is like the death thing, because we're talking about astrology and a lot of people think that you can like predict that stuff. And then that whole aspect of it is that it is a feminine water sign, but it has these masculine rulerships to it. So you have to kind of ask yourself why, and kind of like work that out throughout yourself. And this might be my own inner bias. Like I said, like I have intense emotional, feelings. And so I think that, it could be either, but thoughts, anybody? No?
I think death we should look at in a deeper way, like it's more of a transmutation of the soul.
Yeah.
Rather than and just the rebirth of new. I mean, we know that about death, but I mean like just, we're just passing into a different realm and a new stage and a new evolution. So it's just
Right.
about alchemizing those elements of emotions and energy and just transmuting it and ascending into a different realm. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, even in science, they talk about how energy can never just like die. It has to be like
It can only be transformed. It cannot
yes,
be
it just
destroyed.
transforms.
Yeah.
So that's all that is, you know, and it's just the death of the physical self. But that doesn't mean just because science in modern day can't give us the answers that there are no answers, or that, you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
we won't figure it out eventually, or we have our own answers, you know, with what intuitively feels right to us about that, you know.
In ancient Egyptian afterlife mythology, and belief, they said that we have a body called the Ba body, which is B-A.
Ka,
Ba, yeah.
the
And
Ka body.
so they believed like that's why they mummified remains, is that if you were a true master and avatar, you could travel freely in the Ba body and re-enter and animate a physical body. And they say that the masters upon death don't get caught back into the cycle, which is a lot like Hindu mythology. It's like they don't get caught into the cycle of rebirth, which it comes with Maya, which is illusion. And you don't get pulled straight, and it's also with heavy karmas as well, continuous karmas. So you don't get pulled into that cycle, but you learn how to exit the body at the last moment through your Ba body, and are able to roam freely and can choose when to incarnate.
That's beautiful, bro. I've been so into that. Like literally, I was looking into the duat yesterday,
Mm.
and it's like you know what is this experience? We have to first go back to the foundations of reality. Like how are we experiencing this? And to me, it just seems like it's voluntarily, and we're part of it. You know, we're like the end result. You know what I mean? Like all realities are it's like everything has been experienced already, but we're like just experiencing it, and we're partaking in it, but like we're getting out of that cycle. That's what I want to do. I don't want to incarnate on this body in his body anymore. Like it's like sensitive, you know what I mean? It's so fragile.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not the
Limiting
body, but
too.
it's the knowledge that we've forgotten, or the understanding that we've forgotten. And that's through just the illusion and the karma.
Yeah, like even like I am Hindu, and like, but my background is Gujarati. So like when I was younger, like we would do a lot of different rituals and things like that, but I didn't really understand fully. I was just like, yeah, I have to light divas, like candles, and I have to give thanks on certain days, and I didn't really know that we were worshiping the moon and the sun, and all our traditions were in tune with like Mother Earth and giving back, and so many different beings like the Pleiadians, like definitely that is like Ramen through blue skin. Like there's so many similarities with that, and just nature is our greatest teacher. Like look how much transformation they go through, and then death, and then rebirth, and planting the seeds, and then growing and sharing and evolving. Like nature is our greatest teacher, right? So like even with I find like as I get older, I like slowly remember things from my past, and I'm like, I learned this, but it's like on a different level, like you learn it. And I think it was I think she left, maybe it was another girl that was talking about like when she has a hard time like confronting people. Like even for me, like it's very difficult sometimes, because like I can like say the worst thing possible, but I never will say it. I'll like hold it inside and go through my own process, because I know I can like fuck someone up, but I can't do that, because it would hurt, and they would cry like for days and months, and you're like, I can't do this. So I like take a lot of like internal stuff to have to do my own fight with them, because I'm never gonna go and say this. I just let it go and let it go through my own process of like the dying of whatever I'm trying to receive from them, or whatever I'm trying to take away from them, or trying to understand, and just like, okay, let me just, if I need to confront this person to find out, really, do I want to know the truth, like the root cause of this? Or is this relationship something that is gonna really just like feed my soul? Like, do I feel good when I'm with this person? Or does this person, when I'm with them, their energy affects me so much that I'm just like never my highest self? Like I'm constantly in a low. And Angel, like you were saying, like, and I was in a relationship for like 8 years, and before, and this person, like I would always go back to them, but like, and I felt so weird like when I wasn't with them, but it was like I was like feeding to, like, for me specifically, like my own toxic qualities, and I don't know why I was staying in that specific one. But it's like I kept learning the same lesson over and over again and over again in so many different ways. And I don't know, like I had to get out of the comfort for me to really figure out like what I truly want. And it was just like, let me just focus on me. And then I kind of gained some more clarity in that space in time, because sometimes you get so busy.
I totally resonate with that. I feel that, like, and you know it's coming to you right now. I want to share it too, because we're talking about this. It's like for me, when I notice when it's going wrong, is like when we have like the bombest fucking sex, right? And then the next day we fucking argue, like we argue, and it's like something is like, wait, is something right? You know what I mean? And it has you questioning things, just like, what is this doing for each of us? You know what I mean? Is it growing our relationship, or are you just kind of,
Yeah, like you want to be on the same team. Like you are like you are in your island, right? And then all these people, relationships, these people, friends, family, there are these ships coming to dock on your island. And you're like, oh, I want them. You get access to my island and we get to do stuff together and have fun and share experiences and learn from each other. But when that person on your island is like creating chaos and you're like, what the fuck? Like I let you on my island. I let you know like the secret places on my island I didn't tell people, and you're gonna go do, like, you know what I mean? You have to be mindful like who you want to keep in your island and who you don't want to
vote them off the island.
And this is not just for like relationships, it's like any kind of relationship, right? Like you just look at that, like, is this person wanting to like really, like we want to see each other grow and rise and help each other and learn from each other and just like really show up with love? Or is this person like just want to fuck up my island and go
It's like we're participating in a game. It's like, you know, I read this in the book, The Mastery of Love. They talk about this game that you, like a tennis game, you know, like your partner, you're playing with your partner. You're not playing it. You don't ever play against them. You know what I'm saying? Like you're doing it together, collaborative, like as a team together, you know? And something, you know, we're not going to always get along with everybody. So we can pick and choose, like, you know, who comes to our island, just like you said.
Yeah, there's different levels of the island. Here there's this level, different layers.
This is for tourists.
You can still be on my island, just like here. Like I'll see you here and there.
Stay your ass way over there.
Yeah. But people you want to get out, then you gotta like take that anchor out. Their anchor that they dropped, you're like, I gotta take this. And that's a lot of work to take that anchor away. So this is
your analogy. I love it. I love it.
I love that shit.
It is, because I'll tell you why. I've come to more of this understanding with myself, because I feel like I'm very sensitive and I'm quick to merge with others. That's part of my Scorpio nature, because I want to be tight with people, but I realize you just can't do that with everybody, right? And that's part of, because when you're in close union, like sex, Scorpio, that's why sex is associated, there's a lot of exposure, right? And there's a lot of trickiness. It gets very sticky when you know, not just physically, sticky in other ways too. So, yeah. Anyway, no pun intended, but it does get sticky. So
bro, I got 3 kids. I know.
So it gets very hard to like tease yourself out of a situation where, like, because intimacy, I see the definition of intimacy as like you are just like, you know, you're just there with somebody, right? And if it's somebody you're there with and you're like, this isn't working out, like you're kind of in that space where you gotta create those boundaries, because you want to have that safe space, right? Like I think, and you can't do that with everybody. I mean,
right, which I think goes back to the opposite of the Scorpio, which is Taurus, right? Like the self-love and is this good for myself, and you know, that kind of stuff.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, kind of like standing your ground in a way in self-love. And Taurus, what I love about Taurus, it's always great about honoring its things. It's more the mine instead of the Scorpio is ours. But it's more like me, and I stand in my ground in myself. And yeah, that's very helpful. So it's almost like you do have to be discerning, like Juliana was saying so nicely before, that I think connects in with this conversation, is we do want to be a little bit discerning when we're engaging in folks at those different levels of the island, where it's really just, we know this is going to be a tight thing, right? We're not just going to throw all our stuff out there for any person if we can't. And that's where I think the Scorpio trust thing comes in. It's like, if you don't feel like you can trust somebody and you put yourself out there and you're exposed, they, screw you over or whatever, then you feel like it's really psychologically damaging. It can be very tough, right? So you need to feel like you're discerning. I don't think we've all been taught as kids to learn how to do that properly, though. We're always like, get in a relationship and, and you don't kind of look up for yourself and then create those.
We've been domesticated. We just been domesticated, we've been under the illusion of the American dream for so long, like get married, have kids, and go to work, retire late, and still same old cycle. And what comes up to me when you're talking about that is what Gandhi said about letting people walk through his mind with dirty feet. You know what I'm saying? Like, like energies can really throw you off if there's not a vibrational match with where you're at. So
right. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's why, like, I feel like right now, like what's happening on the planet, it's like it's trying to throw you off your vibration, like all this fear. It's like very low vibration, so everyone's just feeling so chaotic. And obviously the planet's just been hectic, like the last couple of months. It's been hectic. It's like too much noise, too much busyness. I felt like I didn't want to talk to people. I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to focus because there's already too much happening and feeling drained a lot. And like, I think in general, like everyone's been feeling, I'm just tired. I'm just tired for it. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And I think this lockdown is gonna force people to, because a lot of people were not even outdoor people, and now they're like, I just need to go outdoors. And I'm like, good, go outside for a walk, please. Go every day in the snow, like go have fun, anchor back in, and maybe that's gonna like connect them to like their inner knowingness that they probably just lost because they're so consumed with what everyone else is thinking and doing and how they should think and how they should feel and all this stuff, instead of just being like, let me just take a second, take a breath, let me look at the sky, let me get lost, and let me find myself at the same time, so
the old paradigms are dying, like you just pointed out. Like everybody wants to get outside, everybody's like, I can't get outside, like what the fuck is going on, and it's pushing people's buttons, it's pushing everybody's buttons. So many people were being so comfortable, and that's like the transition of the planet going through the death of the old ways of thinking, the paradigms, So I think it's gonna, imagine how different people are gonna be when this shit like is ended. Like everybody's gonna be transformed in some way,
Yeah, well, it's crazy. It's like the whole idea of the 8th house is like you're going through the change, which like people kind of staying inside and all the changes that are happening psychologically for people, like that's the first step. But then there's always that awkward kind of waiting room type time where you're just in between. You're like, okay, I've done this, like we've all talked about in our examples, like after you've done that thing that you had to do that feels uncomfortable, that kind of where you've made room, for new things to come in your life, new growth. There's always that kind of, that awkward. I think that's kind of where we are now, or a lot of people are now.
It's like we're in an elevator room. I don't know. I just came to me. It's like we're all getting off on different levels.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We got that awkward ass elevator music on, and it's just like, okay, we got to deal with this shit, and just like, okay,
Right,
get the fuck
nobody
off the
turn
elevator,
around.
go. Give me some space.
Like, how can you be comfortable? It's like being comfortable in discomfort is a big lesson. But like, I even see it, I not to get like political or anything in that regard, but just like in spiritual communities, I think it's also like such a big test of faith, not to get religious. I mean, not political, I mean religious, but like faith, and do you really think, like, can you really feel that all of this happening is part of God's plan in some mysterious way, or are you going to react and out of fear? And I found it ironic that some of the people that are supposed to be the most spiritual have been acting out of the most fear. That's one thing I've noticed that I'm still having difficulty like understanding. But yeah, I think it's really a big test of spirituality and really in that faith, and just knowing that what's the quote, that God is most silent. God is like a teacher, he's most silent when giving a test or something like that. That one always stuck with me. I think it's super relevant for this current age, you know?
Yeah, there's like a lot of spiritual people that I know who get kind of lost in the fear of spirituality. It's like, you know, I'll talk about maybe like astral projection, and they'll be like, oh, but can't you like get lost in those realms, or can't you never come back, or like what if like you don't return to your body, or what if this happens, or like aren't there negative entities that will feed on you? So like there's all this whole negative side to spirituality, that fear-based, that people keep putting out, like on YouTube. There's all these people who are throwing out like, oh, negative reptilian aliens who, you know,
Yes.
there's all this
Dude,
shit there. But
especially that, bro.
But-
The reptilian shit, they
That-
because like I've been into a lot of dragon energy lately, and I'm actually gonna link up and do some subconscious
lit.
work with a draconian astrologist. And we talk about Lemuria and all the dragon energy. And you know, like if you think about it, the serpent is like a ray, you know what I'm saying? Like a vibration, a wave, right?
Yeah.
And those are like, you know, like the serpent has an egg, lays an egg, and the egg comes. There's so much to it, bro. But I feel like, yeah, the reptilian thing, a lot of people like try to like fucking give that shit so much fear, yo, like fear mongering for
It's just
days on
because
that shit.
people again want to like put like control over nature, and the reptilian type thing is like
Yeah.
instinctual. Ugh. You know, people are like, oh, that's like the instinctual part of humans, like it's not the evolved part of humans.
On that
So-
Voldemort shit, yo.
Yeah, and so they're trying to like instill fear again to try to bring people to that energy, I guess. I mean, that to me would make sense, because it's like you have to ask who that benefits. You know what I mean? Like, who does it benefit to like invoke fear upon people? And it's usually, you know, you look around and you can usually find like who's benefiting from, you know, like trying to get people scared. So
yeah, it just reminds me of the Christian fear mentality, because they have that like snake is the tempting of, you know, Eve.
is
But like in
Lucifer,
every other
yeah.
tradition, like Native American traditions, like the snake is
It's
the creator
not.
spirit, is the god. Ancient Egypt, Hermetic magic,
Yes.
like
You worship the snake.
yeah, everything like the snake
Everything else
is
but
the
Christianity.
Yeah, well, it's very eighth house too. Like this is so like eighth house, because it's so reminiscent of Scorpio, because it is like that rebirthing thing, like how snakes will rebirth themselves and they live in the earth type of thing, like the scorpions do. It's very eighth house-ish, but it reminds me of the nodes, because in Vedic astrology, the north node is Rahu, and it's the dragon's head, and the south node is Ketu, it's the dragon's tail. And there's this whole mythology behind it, like it was like there was a god's party going on, and the nodes slipped in a disguise and drank some immortality elixir, and then someone killed them right then, but a drop went down their throat. So they are part of the astrology. I don't know, that's a very epic way to tell it, but I'm like minimizing like the whole story. But it's like this whole thing about the nodes being like this cyclic destiny that's woven within everybody's birth chart, because it's supposed to keep you on your journey, going from the south node to the north node and the south node to north node, like over and over and over. I was talking to Dave about this just the other day, that a lot of traditional astrologers think that they're two separate points, but the Vedic astrologers say that no, it's like one whole point together. You know, it's supposed to be a cycle of going back and forth. You take the lessons and the knowledge and the talents and whatnot from the south node, and you get to the north node, and then you go back and you replenish and you learn new talents and whatnot, you know, in that department, and then you take it back. And so to me, that's what it sounds like to me when I think astrology and any of the dragon energy or the snake stuff. I always think about that, because that's like the Ouroboros. That's That's the nodes in the astrology chart.
Isn't there a constellation like Ophiuchus, or it starts with an O? It's like a,
Ophiuchus, yeah.
isn't that like a serpent, or is it a serpent?
Well, yeah, he's in between like Scorpio and Sag, I believe. And the only reason we don't put him in there, they always run that article in Time magazine to get people dissuant against astrology, like we don't know what we're talking about. So when you see that thing about the 13th sign and it changes your zodiac sign, disregard that. That's all just false.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It's just, yeah, I mean, it's out there and it's part of the constellations that you can see, but we don't see it like we see the other ones that we use, and we use it because, you know what I mean? We use the ones that we use because of where we are in the giant galaxy. Like we have to find some points of reference. And so there's nothing against that, you know, we don't use it. It's just that whole area of the zodiac is very small anyways. Like Scorpio's very small if you look at like in the big picture of things. So for them to add another energy right there, it just wouldn't make sense in the math. So I get why they don't have it there. That's my opinion, though. Everybody is going to have their own on this topic. So
I agree with you 100%.
I want to say, side note, do you guys have that app Starwalk? You could see like all the constellations. It's the best.
Yeah, I got that.
See in real time. You're like, oh wow, it's so great.
Yeah, I've got one that's like that. It's Star something, Sky Map or something. It also alerts me though. I do like that. It
Starwalk. Starwalk.
The moon goes into another sign. I'm like, okay, cool, thanks.
We could just see the fucking.
Like it sends me an alert.
It's crazy how we could just see the constellations on our phone and fucking like Kepler, like all like they're all fucking like building some shit. Like what the fuck? We could just look up, like do all the calculations, and like we take shit for granted, yo. Like
really, we do. Like it's insane that we can give astrology readings. Like the fact that everybody can do that now. Because back then that knowledge was coveted, and the information that they had gathered from the stars was very coveted too. So nobody knew anything, you know, it was like culture to culture, and it was always passed down, you know, taught from one person to the other. I mean, now it's so widely, like you can do all these different house systems, you can run all these different charts. It's very Aquarius. I love it. But ruler of astrology.
Imagine their sky like during that time. They didn't have like what we have. Like,
that's what I was thinking.
You like literally your entertainment was looking at the stars. You're just like, oh my god, what are you gonna do? We're gonna look at the stars tonight, and like, oh, this story, and that was the storytelling. And then you kind of notice like during that time when they're mapping like what's happening on the planet as it moves and the patterns, and that's why it's passed down from generation to generation. Everything's written and then you see it in photos and stuff. So it's very interesting. Like
I think our highest source creator, like I think we develop these type of ways to understand different levels of our consciousness and realities, you know, like we've given ourselves these tools like astrology to like help us get through our journey, you know, and we come to that point of self-realization where we become so conscious of our internal self as well as the external cosmological universal scale, you know. So once we like have that connection in our heart, and then also in the, you know, with the galaxies, it's like you bridge those two together, you know, and it's like a story. It's like a bunch of just stories. It's beautiful.
Yes, and that's what Chiron is. When you said the bridge of two together, that's what I thought of, because Chiron's like the bridge, right? Chiron is that like that weird asteroid that's right in between the material realm with Saturn and Uranus, which is like God stuff and up, you know, like what we're going to be talking about today. So
well, perfect bridge to that.
I don't know, that was weird, but yeah, Chiron, it's the human journey. So let's begin.
Let's start with Chiron then. Why don't we move on to the outer planets? So so you don't really for this kind of discussion, it's like you don't have to know everything about astrology. You don't have to know where. I mean, obviously it'd be great to have your birth chart and understand what these planets are, but really they're all archetypes. So like when in astrology, there's the inner planets. These rule conscious parts of our personality, but the outer planets, everything from Jupiter on, which will go, you know, they move a lot slower, and they're very archetypal, right? they're more representative. They're less representative. I mean, they do have functions within us, but not as much as the inner planets do. Meaning like, for example, your Mars being an inner planet, you have a Mars function, right? If I have a Mars in Aries, I'm going to be a really like super athletic, all over the place kind of person. But it's not that like, having Saturn in Aries doesn't do that, but they're looked at differently. They're way more archetypal, and by understanding the meaning and deeper implications for all of them, we can just, it just really helps to understand these energies and really just get an idea of what they mean, because we can like, even just like in our own lives, be like, man, that is such a example of Uranian, the Uranus-Uranian archetype, or the Saturnian one. And then if you understand it, look into astrology, you can see what house or what aspects of these planets, outer planets, are making to any of your personal planets, or what house they're in, and see, wow, this is like why this theme is present in my life there. So I thought, I mean, we could just start with Chiron, because Chiron's an asteroid, but it's very powerful, and it's looked at, by a lot of astrologers as a very important astrological point. I mean, I know for me, this is very like free form as usual about how we explain this. People can kind of just fill in, chime in with their ideas of things and whatever. But I know for me, like one of the most difficult transit I've ever had in my life, probably at least since I've been following astrology, was Chiron over my sun. And it hit 5 different times, and every single time Trey lived with me, like literally like clockwork, right when it went right over my sun, something fucked up would happen. Like every single time. Remember that, Trey? When I had that transit, and every time it went right over my sun, like bad thing happened to me. It was just like clockwork. Yeah. So it was just like, oh, cool, Chiron's back. Like I was like, oh, this fucked up thing happened. Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, Chiron once again was retrograde and went right over my sun today or this week. So yeah, Chiron I think of as like very about healing and pain, and it represents a wounded healer, and that's sort of the archetype it carries. So in your chart, it's gonna really, it can speak to areas where in sign and house, like areas and in ways in which you have been wounding, in ways in which you can heal yourself, and thus by healing yourself, heal others. So people who have Chiron really heavily in their birth chart, or who really even just like intuitively dig the energy of Chiron, those are healer types, right? So yeah, I want to just open that up, like the Chiron discussion. Anyone, just anything, free form, no rules. Any kind of ideas you guys have about Chiron or what it represents? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I have Chiron. Sorry. You go, Kendra. Sorry. You go.
I was going to say that the whole thing about learning about the outer planets that helps me, especially now that I know a lot about astrology, looking back, if I would have known this earlier, it would have helped me a lot. But looking at different generations, right? Because Pluto doesn't move very much, right? And so Pluto and Leo generation, I can spot those suckers a mile away. Like Pluto and Leo generation are just, I'm a Leo, so I know that energy, and it's that, like it's real out there. And so you can just see it, and you can know that whole generation of people for like, a certain amount of time. Pluto's orbit's weird. It's like from 13 to, I don't know, like 30 something years in a sign, depending on the sign. But sometimes it's longer or shorter, but there's a whole generation of people out there that share this energy. And so then you kind of understand who you're talking to in the world, I'm still
like 14 years or so
planet stuff because of that. Do what?
It's like, yeah, Pluto, like, yeah, it can be like, I guess it was in Scorpio, for example, from what, like 84 to 98, something like that, like 14 years where Pluto is in Scorpio. So everyone born between those years has Pluto in Scorpio.
Yeah.
So it's like, and keep going. I don't want to interrupt. I just want to say
a lot slower. Yeah. Like in Capricorn, it's slower here. We've had Pluto in Capricorn. I mean, my son was born with Pluto in Capricorn, and that was 2009. And we're right here. So maybe not. No, it seems about the same amount of time here. I don't know where it is the longer, but I know that it is, different ranges. But that's how it goes with all the outer planets, different ranges of where they're going to be.
Mostly Pluto though. Because Pluto, what's it called? Like Pluto, like it has like, it goes like up and down on the ecliptic a lot more than the other planets. Like its range of how like sometimes it's like way above the ecliptic, sometimes it's like more on the ecliptic. That's why it's like
that makes sense.
Pluto's like
yeah.
kind of confusing. Yeah. So one astrologer was saying like how, what's the word, the scientific word?
Is
Like,
it
not latitude.
declination? Is that what you're talking about? Like the
Declination?
declination?
Yeah. So so you have to really look at your find your astrology. Like if you actually look at the declination of your Pluto, like mine is like way up, so it actually pushes mine, like mine's close to my IC, but with the declination it actually moves it like back to the start of the third house. So
okay.
yeah, I don't know so much about that, but like yeah, but I was kind of just interjecting, saying like when you're around people who have also Pluto and Scorpio, like if all of us were born, you know, within that 88 to 98 gap, it's going to be harder for us to understand the difference. That's what Kendra is saying, is like, but if you're around people from different generations, you can actually like see like, oh, like they, you know, because they actually have maybe, you know, their Pluto in a different sign. That's why I think like therapy and healing and some stuff can be so much better when you, not all the time, but so, like sometimes so much better when you have someone that's like a different generation than you, because they have their outer planets in different areas, so that they have different values and different like things that for them is so, it just, that's how you really broaden your horizon, by being around people from different eras and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I found that I usually learn so much more. I mean, duh, you're learning from somebody that's older than you, but I always feel like that's, you know, part of that whole thing, because they have something different to bring to the table, you know. So that's, I don't know who in here has Pluto and Libra. I know me and Dave do. Is it just us two?
I don't know. I just put my chart up on there. Like I just
What
put
is
it
it?
through.
Oh, okay, I was wondering what that was, but let me see.
Yeah, because I think I have Chiron in the 8th house, and it says 1 degree in Cancer. Is that how I'm reading it? Am I reading it properly?
Let me see.
I can't see it.
It was just in the chat, and then I put like, it's this image 6146.
You are, okay, you have Chiron in Cancer in the 8th house.
Yeah.
Yep, for Chiron. So
My Chiron is also in the also in Cancer,
Oh yeah.
okay.
conjuncting the Jupiter in the 2nd house, so it's the opposite of yours.
Yeah, Chiron is going to be a great place, especially if you want to look at sinister, you know, look at other people's charts and understand, you know, if you're in a close relationship with someone, or your kids too, because then you'll know how to nurture their wounds, you know, where they have wounds. Because all of us, it's kind of like the child wound, usually the Chiron wound, because it's the one that sticks with us the longest, you know, and it operates in a subconscious manner the longest. So it has to be, you know, usually a child type thing. For me, Chiron is in Gemini, and I was always told to shut up, which obviously all y'all know how much I love to talk. So it was a wound to be told to shut up. So it's in my 7th house though, so it's also something that has to do with partnerships. I have always been in relationships with people with Gemini moons, or now my partner that has a Gemini sun in my 8th house. So, but the whole energy is to have that human connection with the Chiron thing. So you said Cancer, right? And the 8th house on yours?
Yeah. And then what was the thing that Jesse asked us to check in our chart? If we have what? What did you just?
This time or a
Just
different
right
time?
now, after the Chiron thing, you guys are talking about something. You're like, oh, does it?
Oh, we were just talking about Pluto.
Oh,
yeah,
if you're born like after, like before 84, 83-ish, you might not have it in Scorpio, but I think that's 84.
I have my Chiron in Libra, and I don't really know much about it, but intuitively, because I think Chiron talks about this wound that's persisting and unconscious, and just like diving into unconscious, the thing that always reappears is like something is missing, and that because there's something missing, then there's a loneliness or sadness that develops. So I think this is kind of the central theme. But what that in my life has led to has been to seek for what is missing. And that seeking for
Right.
what is missing brought me to spirituality and brought me to searching for like God within myself. And before, it was always diluted through maybe a soulmate, or I'm searching for someone else. But then as it brought me to spirituality, I realized actually it's a look inwards. And when I find that place, when I find that source connection and that that tranquil peace that arises, it goes away. And so I always know when I'm out of tune or out of balance, because that feeling comes back.
Yeah, that's a
Also,
great way of
it's
saying it.
conjunct. Trey has his Chiron conjunct his sun though, because Trey's sun is 29, pretty much 0 Libra, but it's 29 at the very end of Virgo, and his Chiron is 1 degree Libra. So
Okay.
so that when you have Chiron conjunct your sun, it basically means you're meant to be a healer, but also that you're meant to have gone through lots of pain. That's very like basically an ego death. Ego death is a way of like an intense range, but just real ego pain that forces you to kind of like enter in a role. But when your sun is your identity, so when you have any outer planet on your sun, like you're like a Virgo / Chiron, you're like a Chiron Virgo,
Right.
like meant to be a
Yeah,
healer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
even more
that's even more
Libra,
why you're
too.
like more Libra.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why your sun feels even more Libra, is because you have a conjunction of your sun that's from Chiron that's pulling your sun more into
And it's
Libra.
at the
So I always think of you
being
as more
at that
Libra.
end degree too. Yeah.
What if it's the
He's 29.50 is his Virgo, like 0.10 away from
See,
being
I wouldn't
Libra.
even
And
count you as a Virgo unless you had any other planets in Virgo.
me neither.
Do you have
Yeah,
anything?
Moon. He has moon. He has
birth
moon.
time. She said it's like between like 10 to like 11. So
He's a Libra. Just switch your sign. You're not a Virgo. I mean, you're a Virgo moon, but you're way more, I've known you long enough. You're way more of a Libra.
what if the
Makes
what if
way
the
more
Chiron
sense.
is conjunct the moon?
Then that's going to be emotional wounds. It's not going to be as much of the ego that what
Yeah.
he was talking about, ego death. It's like emotional deaths and emotional wounding. You have to go through emotional stuff that could, I have moon opposite. My stellium, that's Uranus, the moon, and Jupiter and Sag are opposite, Chiron and Gemini.
Oh, Chiron. Oh shit.
Yeah, and so mine is
It's
an
more-
emotional
more
thing
difficult.
too. Mine's always wrapped up in a relationship, my emotional self and this relationship, and because it goes from the 1st to the 7th house. And it usually is that same thing about like, shut up, or I don't want to hear your voice, or, like the trying to suppress who I am, and that Uranus, like weirdness about me, like trying to suppress that about me. Or you can't be an astrologer, or, because it's Sag too, like my belief systems and whatnot. So that's been that reoccurring theme. And I take it so emotional every time. Once I realized about Chiron, I was like laughing. I was like hysterically laughing, because I was like, this makes so much sense. Like, why I've been so emotionally attached to other people and how they feel about my belief systems. Why should I be attached to that? But it makes sense that I would care, about my partner and what they think and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know that anymore. So
I still didn't like figure out how my Chiron manifests. Like, I know it's in Cancer, but like I don't know.
Well, Cancer could be like the mothering influence. What house is it in?
Good question. Just a second.
I have it there too. And also I want to just add really quickly about outer planets is that a lot of times, like especially in my own family life, you can have, like, for example, my dad, his Saturn is conjunct my sun, my mom, like to the exact degree. My mom, her Pluto is exactly my ascendant. Like the list goes on and on and on. So you can actually sometimes outer planets in your chart, or in the chart of like your parents or whatever, like is actually representative of you. Isn't that crazy? So like maybe like in Trey's chart or in Ania's chart or any of your guys' charts, there can be like in my chart, maybe like my Saturn is like my future son's like
that's where its sun's going to be.
Sun sign or something.
That's exactly how my kids' charts are. When I first looked at their birth charts, I was just like in tears at all these connections, because I was like, oh my gosh, they have things from on
Yeah.
me and I don't even know what it's gonna be yet, but it's so awesome. Like it's so cool. I've seen like grandparents, great grandparents, like with the same stuff. We have Virgo stuff going
Yeah,
back
it's fascinating.
from like my kids, me, my mother, my grandmother, her mom. I don't know about further than that, but I know all of us have like very similar, if not exact placements within like 1 degree orbs. It's not always the same planet. Usually it is an outer planet with an inner planet, because it's that outer influence in your life, so they represent those people.
Do you guys see like reoccurring themes in your life, like drawing in like a certain type of like, okay, you're drawing in Gemini energy right now. You should have like a lot of Gemini friends. I notice I have like Scorpio friends, like, you know what I'm saying? Like Scorpio people, like Gemini. I have a lot of Geminis too. And my son's Gemini.
Yep. You're gonna be like, that's how astrology works so perfectly, is because you're supposed to be shown these people. You're supposed to have people come in and out of your life at certain times, and it's for those specific reasons, because they have something to teach you or you have something to teach them. It's always a give and take type of situation. I mean, no matter how short the relationship lasts or how long it is. And so you can really see it if you can go minute to, I mean, not everybody has the time to go minute to minute with somebody else's chart, obviously, but if you could really see like the changes in a person over a time period, and be able to see like the thing is, like with Mars, I feel like, or even sometimes Pluto, that can be in a, like the pursuer, right? So that's like where you pursue in life. But sometimes Venus energy can be like what you attract. And for some people, it works the other way. I've actually seen it where it works the other way with some people, especially because of the whole changes in like gender, whatnot, and whatnot. But it's usually like the same kind of like connections, though. They'll have a specific set of friends that are, those kinds of signs. I always love Aquariuses because I have my moon conjunct Aquarius and Jupiter. So I love a Sag and an Aquarius. Those are my favorite, like, 2 signs.
My sun and moon.
I just love you, Gabby.
Yeah. That was your way of hitting on her.
Come on over.
Very subtle, very subtle.
Very subtle, Kendra. No.
Don't get me sticky.
That's right.
I have
Yeah, for real.
I have Uranus in my 12th house in Aquarius and also Neptune. And those outer planets literally sometimes give me future visions. Like, I am scared of my dreams because they're scarily true. Like, there were times where I saw some events in my dream and I was like, no way, that's gonna happen. That's a really weird dream. And then it literally happened in my real life, And of course, there are also times when it's just a dream, but wishes and dreams just literally come true because of the Neptune being in the 12th house as an outer planet. Like, it's surreal, and I sometimes see dreams that are so weird and not normal that they just make me feel, I just want to like escape. I want to pretend like that didn't happen, but it does happen. And as an outer planet, it really does have an effect. I mean, you guys know more than me, but 12th house is, I think, about like matters of self-undoing and also many unconscious things. So as Uranus and Neptune, they're my 12th house. I think Kendra also knows this one. I think I told her this. And like, as an outer planet, it just, yes, it helps me, but it gives so many future visions. I don't know if you guys have similar placements. What do you think about that?
That is badass. That's badass. Were you concentrating on that type of event before you dreamt it? Like, were you drawing that energy, or you just came into? No. I think purpose of dreams are like our training grounds, in a sense, for our soul when we're manifesting like instantly. Like, that's why we're doing the work. We're having this human experience, and we're having dreams to like make us realize, okay, when the next step of our evolution, when we transcend the limitations of this body and the higher realms, we have to be prepared, because when we think a thought, we're gonna just like automatically manifest it. you know. So I just that's what I think.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Well, sorry.
you ever
Yes.
experimented with like Sufism or looked into that mystic
Experimented with? I couldn't hear.
Sufism.
Sufism.
Hmm.
Are you talking about like Rumi, Mevlana?
Yeah, like mystic Islamic tradition.
Oh yeah, since I'm Turkish, I'm all around like Muslims. I'm not, but it's my religion in my country. Actually, I've realized under the name of many practices, we are doing the just same thing. There's something called istihare, like you pray to Allah to show you your future. If it's near future, you can ask. If you're in trouble, you ask and say, you pray and want answers from God, and then they give you. But mine is involuntary. Like I don't ask to get information. And sometimes it really scares because like I'm like, hey, I ate my unhealthy food, I ate my chips, I'm gonna sleep unhealthily with fat, and I'm not thinking about this like transforming dreams. There was one time, guys, I still am not over it. I saw a massive dragon. I'm also wondering, what do you think about that? Massive dragon. Not the face, but still I have goosebumps. Oh my God. Massive. It is so big. I remember I was shivering in my dream. And after that dream, after like 2 days later, I was looking around like it's gonna come get me. It was that real. It was dead ass.
Have you heard of Hermes?
Hermes? What?
Hermes?
God. It's a god, right?
Yes. Well, yeah. In different places, they have different names like Mercury and Roman and
Yeah. I heard about it.
Stock.
Yeah.
So there's this book called The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, and Hermes has this vision from an eternal dragon called Poimandres. And it's exactly like how you're describing, and they had a conversation about that. It's like a huge, like celestial being that's a dragon that was giving him like the instructions for him to like teach.
That's cool.
Yeah,
like
I had
astrology comes from Hermes the thrice, or whatever you call him. Hermes.
Oh, but guys, that might be related, but I didn't give you this detail. Before it became a dragon, it was an orange fish. It's so weird.
Like magic
it was
cards to Gyarados.
It was a little orange fish, like so little. Then it became this like massive dragon. Then you know what's weird? My mom bought that fish.
What the fuck?
I'm shivering,
That's
guys. And then what happens?
Really good sign. I think that's
fish
a good
fucking died. That fish died. I
Oh
was so
shit!
afraid the massive dragon was gonna come. I'm like, that died.
You were meant to share that dream with us.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
But dragons are also masters of illusion, transmutation, transformation.
Yes.
And I've had a couple recollections of like higher starborn lifetimes. And instead of spaceships, we rode interdimensional dragons. And they literally, I still remember like them soaring on solar winds, like through like all these like fuchsia colored galaxies, and they would just like rah, like with sound and open a sound gate, a stargate up through sound, and we would travel through different worlds. So dragons are really powerful. I mean, they're all about death, but they're also fighters on the side of light workers. Like these are huge they're like super advanced, like kind of how whales are intelligent, like really intelligent, and they there's all these myths from Atlantis that they came in from the sky, the whales and the dolphins. The dragons like are kind of the reptilian keepers of knowledge. They're like in tune with Akasha. They hold the records of millennia, and they don't forget from person to person. I mean, from dragon to dragon.
Yeah.
Bro, I love it, man.
I've heard a bunch of that kind of thing, like in that Witches and Pagans amino I'm in. they have like a whole side of like draconic witchcraft where they become like they speak to these dragon beings. Like you want to get this dragon to be your guardian. So it's like, but they are like saying it's hard to do and it takes years to get the
Kendra,
dragon to
it's
trust you.
hard. No, in no way, I'm telling you. As much as I was so like affected by it, it's so cool, but in no way my little human self can grasp it. It's beyond words. I cannot tell you how I was scared shitless. Like I don't remember being scared that much in my life. The growth, the size of it made me feel like I was like a tiny dot, but it didn't harm me. It didn't harm me. I didn't see its face. I just knew that it was a dragon. It didn't have wings. It was like orange, kind of like orange and brown, not like light orange. And it was before the coronavirus, by the way. I think like maybe it's
shit.
about corona also, because like
Section.
just before it was at March.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're
I
probably
saw that
picking
dream
up
at
on it.
March.
I
It
feel like
was
that. I
massive.
feel like that symbolizes to me what I'm just feeling right now is that it's like we're transmutating into the dragon. You know what I'm saying? Like
Maybe.
the death of that goldfish is, I don't know. Like to me, that just means that out of death, comes evolution. You're just gonna transform your energy into a different state of being. So that dragon is like the evolutionary process of getting there. That's beautiful. I love it. You
Yeah,
should
because
check
I
out
was
this book, yo.
Yeah, 'cause
which
dragon-
can you
like-
tell me the name? I want to take notes. Can you tell me the name of the book?
This book is called the eight. Let me see. I got it right here. I was reading it. It's about Atlantean dragons too, and the Lemurian dragons. It's called The Serpents of the Wisdom. Hang on. The Return of the Serpents of Wisdom.
The
It's this.
Return of the Serpents of Wisdom. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, because if you think about like we always use this over cliched cocoon to butterfly thing, but if we think of actual evolution on Earth, like we did come from water, we came from fish to amphibian,
Yes.
to reptile. So that is a natural progression. And I think like in Glastonbury at this goddess conference, there was one of this priestesses who worked with dragon energy. And we went into kind of their like, there was this whole temple space going on. It was very dark. All of the priestesses had veils on. And she gave me the dragon download, and her eyes were on fire because she said you cannot fear the dragon, because in so many myths throughout time and history, the dragon is something that we slay. And she's like, you are not the dragon slayer, because dragon is fear that you claim. And once you claim that power of the dragon, then it burns eternally through your eyes. And she was showing me this through her eyes, and I walked out of that.
Really?
Fuck, bro.
Walked out of that temple into the night, and my body was aglow with this like rainbow spirit fire. And I just got the dragon download, and then that night I had dreams about dragons, and it's all about getting over that fear and realizing, and that's how you bond with the dragon, is when you no longer fear the dragon, and then you and the dragon are on the same level, then you are bonded. And when a dragon and a human and a soul bond, they bond for life and over lifetime. So you just have to reconnect with that dragon aspect of yourself and overcome the fear, because that's you. That dragon is you.
Oh my
I feel
God.
like the dragons represent power and loyalty, like power and loyalty. Like they're like defenders. Like they're, like you said, like you guys ever heard like the story of Merlin and the dragon, and like that whole thing.
Yeah.
And fire, and like the sword being like becoming magical with the dragon's breath.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Bro, trip out. Like I like my homegirl, my solstice, fucking, she's a draconian astrologist, and she's connected to the dragons. When she was doing this channeling, and she was speaking in light language and tongues, like I was doing like this dragon breath, like I was fucking going like deep in my nose, like it was like deep ass breath, bro. and it just felt like cool ass air, and it just, I don't know, it was like an activation in a way for me.
Like the
Yeah.
Kundalini yoga, like through your nose? Like
No, like super, like super deep, as like I was filling up my whole body with just energy. It was like, it was more than just air, it was energy. It was just like fucking super powerful. Like my eyes be like fucking going like crazy and shit. But it's dope, you know.
Yeah, and I
But
think
guys,
way
I
to-
didn't think of it like transformation. I thought I did something bad and I was being punished. And weirdly enough, after that dream, so many bad things happened. I fought with my family, many stuff, like this coronavirus thing. I felt like I was being punished. And that dream also creates anxiety. I thought I'm gonna die because we had 4 goldfish and one of them died, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna die. Like, I have those like weird anxieties because of my dreams, because I don't know sometimes how to interpret them, that they scare me so much.
I think
But
also
hearing you
the
guys made me feel good.
yeah, because if you have the fear, because I think conditioning to dragons is what made you fear that dragon, first of
Maybe.
all. And when you do die and when you do have ego death, you are confronted with your biggest fears. Like when I went through my first ego death, I was tortured, I was killed, I had my like this was all in like the psychic mental realms. I had the most horrifying things happen to me, and it asked me, are you ready to let go, or are you going to keep continuing to go in this cycle of fear, and are you going to keep reliving this fear over and over again, or are you going to let go? And if you die, you have to let go of fear, or else you're going to continue to propagate in that cycle. And so fear is natural when death comes, and dragon is the face of death, really. It's like, if you look at it, it's a killing machine, but in the same time, it's a light worker. And so it has this perfect body for death and destruction, but it chooses the light. And yeah, letting go, kind of facing the fear of death will help you reconnect with that.
And that's, I feel like that's what the breath, the dragon breath, like the fire of the, you know, the dragon fire represents, is just like the ending of that thing, you know what I'm saying? Just completely fucking wiping shit out. You know what I mean? Like the energies,
Yeah.
tearing shit up. Whatever
Yeah.
entity it is, bro, that shit getting teared up with dragon breath.
How do you do the dragon breath? Or is it complicated? Like a breath of fire?
Oh,
type
the
thing?
thing, the one that I was doing with the chick. Oh, I just, I don't know, bro. I was just,
Oh,
it was
it's like
intuitively,
just, okay,
yeah.
I
No,
see.
but I
I
was
thought it was
talking just like metaphysically, like in a sense, like the dragon breath, like the dragon fire is just like in a sense,
I
like,
understand.
yeah. Mhm. Hey, anybody take fucking mushrooms? Takes mushrooms.
Yeah.
I have a
No,
I
Trey
wish I
does. Trey, you take everything, bro.
Trey does.
I haven't tried it yet. It's been
Trey-
like a year I've been wanting to, but
Same.
I've never have it yet.
Trey hasn't done anything in a year.
What about
It's
this,
It's been a
yo?
long time for me too. It's been a while.
Acid. Is that acid?
Yeah, I was just microdosing, yo.
Look, I got
Hooked
this.
up.
I got this liquid magic mushrooms. Really nice because there's no
shit.
nausea, and you just can dose yourself real
Damn,
easy.
bro. Hey,
Wait,
we're on
Where'd you get
deck.
that?
Hey, we're on deck, yo.
Who sold you that?
Oh, hey, yo, some guy on Instagram sells this shit, bro. I got this shit mailed. He mails this
What
shit
is
out.
it?
What is it?
This is mushrooms. It's magic mushrooms.
Oh, he's
Holy,
got a box? That's
wow,
Yeah, it's
that's so cool.
chocolate. It's
I
chocolate,
love
yo.
how they branded that too.
Yo,
What's-
this motherfucker
what's-
went Willy Wonka.
What's the Instagram? What's the Instagram?
It's based in the plants. It's underscore based in the plants. Yeah.
Based like Lil B?
Trey, what's yours?
I'll send it to you.
Where's yours from? Your tincture.
Mine's from. So I met this.
I found it. I found it.
When I was going through like an ecstasy phase, and normally when you go partying, everyone's so fucking lame. And I found this one group of people, and I just sat with them because, you know, I'm so open on ecstasy, and started talking with them, and we started talking about like psychedelics and spirituality. And then they messaged me like, hey, do you know where to get mushrooms? Like, no, I can get everything in London except for the good stuff, like the mushrooms and LSD and stuff like that. But I'm like, tell me if you ever find it. And then like 7 months later, this person just messages me saying like, dude, I found it. And so.
Fuck, bro, UK sucks, huh? We just get this shit mailed in.
Yeah, he ended up mailing
Yeah,
it to me, so.
our old friend in Colorado used to be able to make the chocolate, or Trey's friend made the chocolate mushrooms.
He made
Stop
mushrooms.
eating my chocolate.
It's like one of those
She's
tools,
eating like
you know,
chocolate.
like those. It's like one of those tools that we created in this reality to kind of like reconnect us with the higher realms of consciousness.
Yeah, mushrooms are
Yeah,
so sacred in like Hinduism too. Like that's why like they wouldn't like also kill the cow, because when the cow like would poop and then it would grow, like literally the magic mushroom from Mario would grow there, and they're like, oh my god, and they eat it and they get all this like visions and this connection to, and they're like, this is why they hold it so sacred as well.
Awesome.
I feel like mushrooms on high doses give you the perception of like a high fourth density reality, and also give you the perception of time moving through space. That's what all that texture of that movement is you're actually seeing how time is affecting space. And I think you can breach through the fifth density on mushrooms. I did it when I mixed it with a Blue Lotus wine it's like an ancient Egyptian kind of recipe where you get Blue Lotus flower and ferment it in wine. When I drank that and had the mushrooms, it took me straight into fifth density awareness.
Bro, have you done ayahuasca?
Not yet, because I'm finding I want to do that really respectfully and find the proper place for it, you know.
Bro, if you fly out to South America, let me know. I'll meet you there, bro.
You mean we'll go out and
anybody,
you have
whoever's
to be
down.
careful.
Yeah.
I was talking to my mom about it today, and you have to be really careful. Like you can't just go to Peru and Bolivia. It's very dangerous places, and politically, like you have to really know someone. But my mom told me about someone today, actually, on the phone that like helped change her life. She said she did San Pedro once. And my mom's not like she's a Virgo, you know, she like doesn't like do drugs or stuff like that. But she did San Pedro that time. She said it was like changed her life and gave her like what she only could describe as like a DNA upgrade. And she gave me the name of this guide who knows everything and everyone in Peru. And he like has these like shamanic journey, like takes people on these shamanic trips. So it's a little bit expensive, but if anyone's interested,
yeah, we gotta.
I can pass it phone.
Maybe he has connections to more of the ghetto version of that, because
no, it's not that expensive. I mean, like the plane already is going to be, you know, that I guarantee that definitely includes the plane, I would think. But anyways, but yeah. Where were we? I feel like this conversation is going in a different direction than the outer planets. I'm super down for just flowing and going wherever it's meant to go. It's obvious. Yeah, I mean it's a smaller group. It's a smaller group today, so I'm, you know, for me it's the same. It's whatever you guys want to talk about. We can go back to outer planets, but we're on kind of a cool flip right now. Anyone have anything else coming to mind about what we were just talking about?
I have actually
About
something.
outer planets?
Agniya.
Yeah. When you were talking about dragons, then you know, the fear and the dragons.
Yeah.
This brought me back to the 8th house, because that's exactly how it is. That you have to die, face the fear, and that's the death and the rebirth. Because I've got my moon in the 8th house, and got also the Scorpio stellium, so I can very tell you from my own experience that it's totally worth it. You know, it's like, I think the things that are the most worth in our lives are the ones that we fear the most, definitely.
Yeah.
and it's not worth it if you're not scared of it, you know.
It's like,
You're
what's
right.
the what's the point of this reality, right? It's like that's kind
Yeah.
of like we set ourselves up with these challenges. In
Yeah,
a way, it's like,
I was,
okay, we got to get through that.
Yeah.
I was curious
Like this is
because for me, I was forced to face fears on psychedelics because they push you up front with those fears and make you let them go and overcome them. But I'm wondering if anyone has gone through this process, because I feel like it is I mean, it's hard to really know what to do when you're sober. It's like you kind of are caught in you're caught in your daily life. You're kind of just going through things. And it's like, how do you have a spiritual confrontation with your fear and overcome it without this usage of things?
well, you're talking about what you're talking about is very energetic, you know, but I think like it may be more relative like to the moon or something, but you know, from like a sun perspective, like ego, I hear what you're saying, like kind of overcoming energies and tough energies. I mean, obviously one thing is like, you know, like you were doing the yoga you were doing, like that's like one thing. Just like having deep ass fucking conversations and deep, like really intense experiences, like even if it's in a relationship, just like having really intense experiences in a relationship that takes you to your edge. You know, any kind of just out of the ordinary event can kind of force you to look at something and change behavior, like a car accident, or like, you know, there's an infinite kind of amount of different potentials that it might not be like you're under the influence of this substance, but you're still pushed. It's still a peak experience to the point where like you're really like, I need to fucking change, or I need to like make this change right now. I need to like not do this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're mean like how you integrate it, right? Like how you integrate that experience into your daily life. I mean, like I just delved into psychedelics, and for myself, to me, it's just like living more ritualistically, like virtuously, like really seeing each other as everybody else as just reflections of myself. You know, like trying to remind myself of that constantly. I'm just in the midst of it though, man. Like, you know, so like I think that's kind of a little perspective.
I feel
Yeah,
like
I always just try to see the beauty in the basics, you know? Like I try to remind myself of those experiences where something came so alive that it was more than life, you know, and kind of remind myself that everything is that way. That's how it helps me, is to just get like in tune with nature, and then I'm reminded of how like cosmic everything is, or looking up at the sky, you know, or even doing meditation and breath work and things like that, you know, that put me in my body and make me grateful for the body I have, and like the basic stuff, you know.
Yeah, I guess I was talking about like the fear in general, like because sometimes it's kind of very clear cut, like you're afraid of snakes. So what do you do to confront that fear? Go and hold the snake, right? So that's yourself pushing yourself to an edge. But then what if a fear is unconscious, or a fear is like within you that has something to do with an emotional or mental aspect that you can't even explain? It's like let's say fear is unconsciously ruling your life. I guess like how do you work with that energy? How do you hold the snake in more mental abstract terms?
I feel like
I
that's
would
struggling to figure
suggest some kind of like, I don't know, learning how to like move your own energy and give space to that area, you know, of whatever it is. And kind of like, I think again, if you're not aware of it, you can't do anything about it. So kind of the first step would be like illuminating that and figuring out where that fear comes from, and then not being scared of it, going and inviting it to hug you and sitting in that fear for as long as you need to kind of understand it. And then from there you can kind of make, you know, the necessary movements on what to do in your daily life, depending on what it is.
I think we should look at fear as just a construct of the human mind. we should shift our perspective of it and just, it's just a, you know, we
Right. I mean,
create.
Right.
fear in itself is like a protective mechanism so that we don't die, right? Like it's a survival thing. Like, oh, I'm close to the edge of this cliff. I'm scared. I need to step back so I don't fall off the edge of the cliff, you know? So I feel like it has its purposes, right? But it gets in the way. And so giving space for that fear to be felt is very powerful, because a lot of times people are just scared to give themselves permission to cry over something they're scared over, you know, or they don't give themselves that space to feel comfortable in expressing whatever weird thing it is that makes them fearful, you know?
Or even to admit that they're fearful.
Right.
You know, to admit that one has some type of fears.
Yeah.
Especially for men.
That's what I was about to say.
Especially for men.
That's a wound in the masculine for sure, because men have been told forever by the patriarchal like powers that be that you can't cry, or you're not a man, or if you get sad, you're not a man, or, you know, like all of these stereotypes that are not true, because you're a human and we all need to process and give space for all of our feelings. Our brain wants to label them good, bad, ugly, but they're just feelings.
Yeah.
They're just part of who we are and how we're trying to express ourselves and feel in our own bodies. So I think that's where I would start, is go inside to where that fear started and try to explore from there and work your way out.
Right. We should.
And prayer also, like the power of prayer and writing in magical writing, and, you know, putting things into words, and, you know, just like, I think if you have the mindset, not saying any, you know, you do, but if you have a mindset of like, I can only, you know, see these emotions or see these fears when I'm on these substances, and that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know? So it's like understanding, like, yeah, that, like, in my opinion, that those help you, those make it more obvious, those help you see them, but you can still achieve the same thing through meditation or through, you know, just somehow getting into your authentic creative self, right? Whatever way that is for everyone. For me, you know, it's like literally just like having time alone and talking to myself out loud, or that's like how it works for me. I learned just by like talking to myself. While someone else, it might be through painting or from making music or through writing poetry or for talking to a friend. You know, we all have different ways that get us into that higher kind of energy, I guess.
Yeah, if you think about it, like, let's say you have fear of failure or fear of success, then, like, let's say you have a project that you want to complete, but you can't do it. There's a blockage. I think those are all indications of where you can start to go deeper, because let's say, okay, I want to do this, but I'm scared to start. So then how do you work with that fear? I think just like lie down and hold that fear, because that fear is a little child that needs to grow up. It needs your coaxing and your attention and your love. And if you can take your own fear by the hand and like help guide it forwards, then I think that's also another really beautiful way. And dreams too, dreams, because you face your fears and your unconscious. So if you can get lucid in your dreams and not take yourself out, like, oh, this is a nightmare, I need to wake up. If you can keep yourself in that dream and face it without traumatizing yourself, is also a really good way. And astral projection, because your fears will project will literally manifest in that realm as, you know, whatever entity or demon you conjure up. And to be able to face it, it's like you can make your own myth in the astral dimension.
Acceptance.
It's like you can
exactly, and even
you can generate your own demons and conjure a sword, or, you know, conjure some like spells of light to do something to it.
I think fear stems from a
even
subconscious, like, sorry, bro. I think fear stems from a subconscious like seed that's just like kind of blooming and just kind of like, it's like a weed. You know what I mean? Like, that's growing from the grass, and you just gotta pick that shit out. You gotta do the maintenance. Like, oh, if there's one coming in here, I'm gonna take that shit out. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, but we are not. If the fear is just an experience that we are aware of, you know what I'm saying? That we're not the fear itself. We're creating it subconsciously, but we're not even the fear. We're the awareness behind the fear. Like, we're aware of that energy.
Yes, and that's like the fear is like a root chakra thing, and the lower chakras are always connected to like your childhood, to like your conditioned patterns. They're a lot denser energies to try to work with. And so fear is one of those, you know, it's hard to fight your fear sometimes. And so some workshops I've been in like invite you to like get up and like stomp around and like make sounds like human beings, like you know, the sounds we used to make before we started speaking languages, you know, just like the animal type sounds, and stomp around, and it's like drum circle type situation. You know what I mean? Just because that gets you like in your body, and it invites you to like play like a child, you know what I mean? Like have time and space for play. And
Exactly.
that
You
in
know,
itself is so enlivening for people.
when you say that, it's like, how does a child see fear? If they see if a fire is right there, they don't fear the fire until they experience it, until they experience that pain. And
Yeah.
then they're fearful of it because then they experienced it, but they don't see things. They're never fearful of anything until they have an experience. And I
That
think
shapes
that's
them. Yeah, it shapes them to be fearful of certain things. So inviting your child self to play and to just like see what comes out. Like, I mean, I sometimes do that when I'm
yes,
doing yoga. I just kind of like go with what my body is telling
yes.
me to do, because it has wisdom in it that I can't understand, that my brain doesn't understand, you know? So
Yeah,
That's a great.
I also want to say, like, I think we should like be friends with fear too, because sometimes we put such a negative connotation on fear, and like fear,
yeah.
but you know, like when you just like look at it, like, what is this really teaching me? Or like, why do I need to be conscious of my behavior or subconscious behaviors? Or why do I need to confront this
It's
person?
like Saturn, right? It's like the Saturn, like the teacher energy, or like, you know,
Indicator.
and then Satan, like isn't Satan, they associate Satan with Saturn or whatever.
Yeah, they
So
do.
it's like that whole fear, you know what I mean? It's like we've all have like temptations in our life. Nobody
Yeah.
has, you know what I'm saying? Everybody has had like a negative thought in our life,
Yeah.
but it's like, what, like, we are not that. We're just the awareness behind that.
Yeah.
In the Hebrew version of the First Testament of the Bible, it's Satan is actually referred to as El Satan, which means the advisor. And so in the first like ancient Hebrew version, El Satan was the advisor to order. And if we think of like Satan as kind of fear as an advisor to order, there becomes a whole new relationship in that dynamic.
Wow, bro, that is some deep shit, because that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Out of all this fear comes order. Out of chaos comes order.
Yes,
Yes.
and Saturn is exalted in
Look at
Libra,
us.
where it's order, where balance is found. Saturn's exalted there, where you wouldn't even think Saturn would be exalted in Libra, but it makes sense because it likes order and balance to the chaos. So yeah.
It's like perfect. It's like perfection in
Right.
order almost.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like, yeah, because it's so interesting. Saturn and Libra together. Yeah, because Saturn wants things to be, wants hard work, wants dedication, and the aim of it is to get things right. And Libra is it is perfection. It's the balance. It's things being perfectly feminine, perfectly
Yeah,
masculine.
and if we go
Super
back to
interesting.
ancient Egyptian mythology, I've just been studying a lot about it. There's the Noon, which is the primordial waters of existence. And there's even a principle before the Noon. And then from the primordial waters was born chaos first, which is called Apep. And only from chaos was Amun or Atum born, which is order. And so chaos can exist without order, but order needs chaos to exist.
Right.
Because it was born from chaos. But to exist, they're in a perpetual balancing. So there's always a push and a push back and forth, but they have to remain in balance in this circle. But then if you look at that, then if there's chaos and order, those are still dual aspects. So those are still encompassing only not the full aspect of what we are. So when we do encompass the full aspect of what we are, is that we are this dance of chaos and order intermingling.
Right.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. You know,
Yeah,
I was
very interesting.
reading I was reading this. So you know how they say, like, according to the Heart Math Institute, like the earth, like the vibration of the earth is matched by like our vibration, our rhythm, our flow, like how our heart is. And like right now, this past like year, our vibration has been in like the state of fear, which is like a very low vibration, like very like slow, or it takes a little bit longer. And then there's like different vibrations for like love and stuff. So because a lot of us have been like really low, that's why it's been creating like the rotation of the planet and just like the energy around everyone just feeling like in the state of, like when you're in a really really low state, like you don't want to like take care of yourself as much. You're just like in survival mode always, constantly. You're not thinking about anything else, and it just creates too much heaviness. And I feel like everyone's just realizing they're like climbing up this mountain, there's so much weight on them, there's just so many things, you're just like being more conscious of everything that you're carrying. You're like, this is so much. And you're like, why is it before you might have already thought like you were already carrying it, but you weren't even, you're like, it's not that bad, it's not that, like I could do it, like, you know what I mean? But I feel like now we're just putting more weight into things that shouldn't be there as well. I
think it needs to happen though, you know, like this, like that. Yeah, it's like everybody, a lot of people like have been self-reflecting, you know, doing the shadow work this year. A lot of like people that are used to working, like myself, I was just working, and now I'm just teaching my kids, you know, I have to homeschool them, and it's a lot of work. I have 3 kids, I gotta homeschool them. It's like, you know, so this whole, it's been teaching me how to be a father better, how to be more present, how to be more patient, how to be more temperate, you know, temperate, is that the word I use? You know, so I think it's an evolution of our consciousness on a co-collective scale. You know, it's a huge scale that this is happening on. It's like the whole planet is doing the shadow work.
Yeah,
and I think the weight comes from, so that this teaching, you're probably familiar with it, Payal, is ahimsa, which is like it's not attachment, right? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like, what I notice is the more weight I get is the more attached I've become to things, to certain thoughts, to certain outcomes, to certain expectations, to certain situations in my life. Like maybe, oh my God, this thing was so comfortable and felt so good, and I became attached to it. And then over time, it becomes a weight. And so, I mean, to not, and then we have to shed it again, like a skin, like a snake, and we have to shed that weight off. And then we continue to attach to new things. And so this practice of ahimsa is the practice of not attaching to things, is to let things just be as they are and go their course and take their time, and not have the preference over, you know, good feelings versus bad feelings, because this is, again, this interplay of chaos and order. Like in chaos, there's, for some reason, all our clothes are scattered across our room. And then we go into order, and everything's neatly packed up in our closet. But for some reason, as humans, we're like, oh yeah, order is better. We have to keep things neat. And chaos means we're out of, you know, it's not good. But to have this understanding it's like the gray Jedi, you know, it's not the Sith or the Jedi, it's the one that walks the middle road, the one who understands that chaos and order are spinning around us.
It's part of the scales. It's like the scales, scales of balance, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love, like, Trey, when you said like the butterfly, you're like, forget the butterfly, like focus on the serpent, like shedding our skin. And like a serpent would just keep growing. They do with the Jay, it'll just keep growing, right? It doesn't matter. It'll just keep shedding and shedding as many times, because it's like, I don't need to be in the same skin. I'm gonna evolve and change, your eyes, everything. But even as humans, like, we are no much, like, I think they said you only age, like, everyone's like 7 years old, because every single cell dies after 7 years old. So you're not much older than 7 years old, they say. So like you're going through these cycles. And I think that's like even with the chart, right? Like every 7 years there's some kind of like big transit or something that happens within your own.
Well, every 8 years, I think Venus finishes its like full circle dance in the sky with Earth. But I don't know about 7, but I know Venus is an 8 year cycle.
Oh, okay. And 7 is for the human body, like skin, scales, bones, everything, your eye, everything.
But what we've done as humans is we've stopped shedding we've stopped shedding things mentally because in our past, I'm pretty sure I'm still holding on to things from when I was like 2, or like 3 or 5. And what happens when a snake doesn't shed its skin? It literally will die. If it can't shed its skin, it will die. And this is what happens when we continue to hold on to these things and we don't shed it, is sickness starts to come in, or we start to get sick, or we start to get sad or depressed or anxious. And it's exactly the same metaphor.
Remember that book I was telling y'all about when Taj came on the call that time? That book I was saying that where a Uranus return and a Uranus opposition is the moment that the Kundalini decides to live longer or not. Remember how I was talking about that? Like the Uranus transit like enacts that within human beings. Yeah, it's like a really interesting book on that concept, because based off of how you deal with your Uranus opposition and squares, like going through all the processes will change it. See what?
What's that?
I'm having the Uranus opposition to my Mercury, my Sun, and Saturn is squaring it as well. So happy days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I meant Uranus square Uranus and Uranus opposite Uranus, like where the natal Uranus is opposite the transit one, which because Uranus moves so slow, and so when it's on those squares and oppositions to where it normally is natally is when you have these awakenings of self. And
I have that right now. I have that right now. The natal Uranus opposite the transit Uranus. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, I was honestly so confused by that.
Yeah, the opposition, I don't know, in the book, it tells a lot about electricity in the body. Do you feel a lot of electricity in your body?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, you know what? I think it's square. It's the square one, not the opposition.
Who am I talking to? I can't even see them.
Chanel.
Okay, yeah. Yours is a square because an opposition comes at like age 42, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the square will give like echoes of the future situation you're going to have at 42. So pay attention at the square, So just take note of that year. And then the year of the opposition, you'll see echoes of that same self. And it's that choice to live longer, that choice to give yourself that vitality, or to say, oh, I'm going to let this body die and not finish out the rest of my time here. I'm done. So.
Do you mean as in like physically taking care of yourself better?
No, I mean like on an energetic level, like Uranus energy, like your whole intention, like not so much as like what you're eating and drinking and stuff, but like your intention to live, how they talk about, like cancer patients that, come out of full recovery and because they were like, I'm going to fight this versus like somebody who's like, oh, I'm just going to give up and let it take me, like that intention that you hold for life force that goes through like a transformation of sorts. And it also coincides with like, the midlife crisis time, because it's like age 42 to 45 or something. So a lot of times it's rolled into it, but it does explain why humans go through this transformation during that time period too.
I definitely see that. I can relate to that for sure. Of like just deciding if I'm gonna like, how can I say it? If I'm gonna take command of my life or not. That's definitely where I am right now. Like to decide, am I tired of letting depression control me, or I have the choice of if I can say I'm not gonna let that happen anymore, or if I'm gonna let it continue to like consume me. So I can definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah, and you'll definitely see the same thing repeating. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying, like at that opposition point. So that's interesting to, take note of, because usually you see your progress. You see how much you've changed, and you look back at this self that you are today, and you're like, oh, I remember those struggles, but you don't hold that attachment that Trey was talking about to those struggles anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Because you can reflect and look back at your life differently. So, it always helps if you're an astrologer anyways, because you'll know when these things are happening. So you can kind of give yourself a heads up, a pep talk the year before, like it's going to happen.
And I think to help get through those things is to start understanding like what exactly it is you need to do. So if it comes in, because I mean, I struggled with depression a lot in my early teenage years and started coming out of it probably when I was mid 19 years old or something like that. And what came through was exactly what you were saying, Chanel, is like, okay, I'm kind of fed up. Like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to come out of this. What do I need to do? But you have to come to this decision. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do it. This is it. And then I just had to write down all the things that I needed to do because I knew what was keeping me back and I knew what I had to do to change. And you have to get those clear in your head and then commit, because once you commit, it is not that long of a journey. And then once you commit to that and you come out on the other side, it is some thick work, like you're trudging through, like the amount of times I've had to drag myself out of the black hole is, but it is a journey. And it's likened to kind of this Jesus resurrection story, or like the resurrection story of Osiris, where it's like you have to go into the underworld. Depression is kind of like that. It's the dive into the underworld and into the shadow, and then the climb back out.
Yeah, for sure, because I definitely feel that I've already had like a death rebirth experience in my life, and that was when I was 19 years old, which was when I got really, really depressed when I was at college, like so depressed that I would wake up and I would cry because I so badly did not want to be alive. Like I was thinking, like, why didn't I die in my sleep? Like I was just not grateful at all for being alive, because I didn't see life as a gift, because of the way that I was abused growing up and was still being abused at that point, like really verbally abused. I just never saw any good in myself, and like I would wake up and I would cry, and I would cry through everything that I had to do. Like I would do my homework and I would cry. Like sometimes I would even have to leave class because I would be crying. Like I would collapse in the shower. Like I would be standing up and I would slip to the freaking floor in the shower because I was so depressed I could barely hold myself up. Like I couldn't do anything. I would cry when I was doing laundry. I didn't want to eat because that would make me cry. Like it was ridiculous. And like I would just kind of like how Angel mentioned, being like kind of a addiction to marijuana. That was where I was at. And so I did not want to be conscious and in reality. I was like, this is too painful. Like I just wanted to either be high or to not be alive. Like I was just in such a dark place. And so I ended up in the psych ward because I had a plan to commit suicide. And that was before like I actually ever attempted it, which now that has happened. And so it's like it comes to a point where you're just kind of tired of your own shit. You're like, I have had enough of being this depressed for this freaking long. And it gets to a point where it can't be anyone else telling you that you need to change. It's like it comes from within.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's time to cut that
Wow,
cord.
Chanel. Yeah.
in addiction, it's like what they say, sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's kind of like you get to that point where it's just like, fuck, no more. I've been there too. Like I definitely been. I think a lot of people who go towards a life of like, I don't like calling it spirituality. I think it's because it's so different for everyone. But at least a life towards like growth and of self-analysis, I guess you could say. We all go through that at some point, and sometimes we go back to that. And I think with time, in the times between those, if you want to call them episodes or lower periods, we get better at gaining skills and insights and things that will help us when that energy comes back. But it's still like you can't get too down on yourself when that energy comes, because it's like it is valid. You know what I mean? But then again, at the same time, it's like, all right, fuck, what's the plan? Kind of. That's I think what you're trying to figure out right now. It sounds like is like, what's the plan?
Exactly.
I mean, this might be a strange thing to hear, but I found that as humans, we're addicted to our own suffering. we're addicted to our darkness, and it is an addiction, just like alcoholism and just like drug abuse. We are addicted to it. For what reason? Because we refuse to let go. That's exactly the reason. Like, if we just went to let it go, then it would let go. But we're addicted to our thought patterns. We're addicted to certain ways of thinking and of victimizing ourselves. We're addicted to, you know, these feelings, and it is tough to let that go. Just like anyone who struggled with addiction, it is the hardest thing to get over.
Think of it like putting all those experiences in a bag and just kind of carrying that shit around. The more experiences you just keep on, you're attached to it, like those possessions. Those experiences are you think they're unique to you, but there's so many people that have a variety of similar situations, if not worse. You know, I don't want to even downplay anything, because, you know, we each have our own path that we go through. But, you know, it's like there's a point where that shit gets too heavy, you know, you just want to let that shit go. You just just drop it off. But you're getting there, Chanel. Like, you know, you're connecting with higher vibrational people like us, like all of us, like, you know, we're doing it together. We're raising our vibrations. Like, sharing that with us is part of your healing, and it's also a gain for each of our awarenesses. You know what I mean? Because we each have our own trials and tribulations that we have all gone through, and, you know, for you to share that with us, for me, I resonate with that as well. But you're gonna get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I feel like everyone probably has been going through different waves of depression once or twice, or still in our lives. I think it comes in waves, I feel like. And it's like sometimes the wave gets so high, it's like you're drowning, right? You feel like it's overwhelmingness, and it's going to take you, it's like a lot just to even get out of there. So you're just tired of struggling. You're sort of float there, right? Just for a bit, just so you can feel that calmness, right? But sometimes they say even like letting, like, what is that we're doing to create that calmness? And that's like your own thing, like something that sometimes, like, I feel like what had helped me when I was going through different things with depression is just like I would just like go on a walk, because nature is known to like help heal depression and anxiety and stress in Japan. Like, I would just sit in my car and record myself talking as if I'm having my own therapy session to my higher self. And I would like, it'd be situations, and I didn't want to share with people because it's like I talk a lot, and I'm like, I don't have 7 hours to talk to me. So I'm like, who will? I will, because who's gonna go for yourself? You are. Who's gonna take care of yourself? You are. Who's gonna be there for the rest of your life? Your soul, your spirit, everything you will ever need is already within yourself. So remember that. You know.
Yeah, that's right.
Because, like, just like you said, there are the waves, and you can choose to perceive reality through the waves, the ups and the downs and the falls, or you can choose to perceive reality through the center of it, watching the rises and the falls happen. And when that is also unattachment, because you're not attached to the ups and downs, you're just observing them.
And think about how many people you're gonna help too, you know, that can relate to your experiences. Like, once you overcome that, you're gonna be like an ultimate healer, like, for real. Because people
that's actually
sometimes
what I see for you when I was thinking about that. Like, when I was talking about the Uranus, like, you'll have shadows of this later on. I feel like you're gonna look back at this at one point in your life, and you're gonna see that your struggles really, really changed you in order for you to help change other people that have these same struggles.
That really is my dream. That really is my dream. Like, I want to, there was actually once like a therapist or whatever she was, psychologist, that told me that she could see me being a wounded healer. That's what she said to me.
Yeah, you definitely.
Because sometimes people don't want to take advice from people that haven't experienced what they experienced.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if you can touch down like at the deepest parts of this person's soul, like the damaged part, then they can sense that you know what they're going through,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
That's
Like-
why I want to write my book on bipolar disorder, because it literally felt like I was dying. Like it was so extreme, that depression that I had, that it felt like I was grieving the end of my own life. Like I was literally preparing to die. Like I'm glad that I didn't, even though sometimes, I mean, because my waves that I have are not just like other people's waves might be like this, but then mine is like really extreme, up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I really do want to be able to touch other people, especially I think younger people that are going through that, because when I was a teenager, it would have helped me if
See that
someone
right
had-
there. That's what I'm talking about. Like you're saying that now because you can look back at the teenager self. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And so
Yeah.
you already feel called to help them, because if somebody would have been there to help you, you would be different. You see what I'm saying? And so
Exactly.
that is how people are really gonna be, changed by you, is in that way. You're just gonna tell your story and help them not feel alone.
Mhm.
And
And-
our dreams are the most important thing, because so many times we lose sight of our dreams, the dreams we had
Yeah.
as children, the dreams that are even impossible. The more impossible, the better they are, because those dreams are the ones that will take you to the highest. Like if you want to fly, if you dream of flying, then do everything in your power to fly, like skydive, paraglide, astral project. Like flying is possible. You can, like, anything is possible, even if the dream is like the loftiest thing. Like if it's trying to be president, even if you never get there, pursuing that dream is what gives you life, because that is all that life is about, is to follow that spark and that energy.
Yeah.
I find this like a good analogy, like when Kendra was saying, like when you get like certain experiences happen to you, like all these things that we go through and we face is just like energy, right? And like sometimes it's like it's really heavy on us and it could just keep us trapped in our own little bubble. But like when we can like learn to harness that energy and transform it, and like we said, like energy can't be destroyed, it can only be transformed. Like what are you going to transform that energy to, these experiences of things that are happening to you, and push it out? It's almost like Dragon Ball Z, like you're trying to like get that, push it out, and you have to scream, you have to cry. Like crying in the shower is the best therapy. Like yelling at someone in the shower, there's no one there, you're just having conversation and just crying, and you're like, get just so it's out of you. Like things, these like invisible conversations, just to release and release and release. Just like a baby's crying, you never say like stop crying, you just need that baby to cry because it just needs to communicate something. And that's what it is when you're just like, you're just trying to communicate, you don't have that words, you're just crying it out, letting it go. So just spend time always when you want to release, go do your thing, release in any shape or form and things like that. But then you can like take some time for yourself and really cater that little young teenage girl that's already still within you, that little baby, that 4-year-old self, that and be your own mother, your own daughter, your own sister, your like that love, because you're gonna take care of her forever, right? And it's okay what she's going through, she needs to release it, but you're there, you got her, right?
When I was a young boy, when I was 6 years old, I went through a trauma. And at the end of the trauma, it felt like a part of me had died. But then also, this angel came to me in the trauma and said, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Continue to play, just like have fun, be a child, live, sent all this love. And then 13, 14 years down the line, I was doing this deep meditation and I was kind of embodying an angelic energy, and I was meditating, and I kind of went out of this temporal space, and I was that angel in the future going and visiting my past self and giving that energy. And so that was actually me healing and helping myself when I was a child by going through time to do that. And it's completely 100% possible.
Yeah.
And once I was able to do it there, I was able to do it in other aspects of my life.
That's awesome.
That's some deep shit, bro. That's what's up.
Yeah, and just a quick thing, Chanel, just like from an astrology standpoint, you know, you do have Mars and Chiron together, right?
I think they're
Conjunction.
yes, you're right. They're conjunct, and then I have also
They're
have I
different
have it
signs.
sextile my sun, and there's also an aspect of it with my moon.
And aren't they in the 12th
Yeah,
house?
so they 11th house.
Okay.
So so it's all meant, you know, it's all meant to be for you in that way. You just have to go through it difficult so then you can, you know, explain that. And you're very good with your words and good at explaining like things to people.
Yeah,
So
you're really,
so that those skills will go together later on. And you know, your Virgo, Mercury conjunct your North Node. So you're meant to like be able to communicate the internal psychological process to the masses with that Scorpio Mars conjunct Chiron and Libra. Makes sense to me.
I also want to say,
and with
sorry, Jesse.
Aquarius moon too.
No, you go, Jesse.
No, that's it. No, I'm done.
Okay. I want to tell Chanel that I feel like I have to tell you this, like it's my responsibility. I feel you, and sometimes like you feel like you want to disappear, and the most painful thing is that you look at other people and like you want to dispose yourself and be them, because like the moment you are experiencing the pain, the depression, you look around and see, you know what, I would rather die and be my neighbor, you know, because like that person's life is so quote unquote unproblematic, but like mine is so heavy. It's like it's haunting me. Even I have been lately thinking about this, and I felt like if you look at me and feel the same thing and like say that, oh, my life is so hard, but look at them, like there seems nothing that much big as mine. Like I want to escape myself and I wish I could be someone else, but not me. I want to assure you that as a person, I do feel it and I do feel your pain. But as Jesse said, I think you are meant to transform it too. Yeah. And you can really express yourself. I love listening to you. Like we can see your pain, but you can also just tell us what you really feel. And that's a gift, I think.
Thank you so much for that. And I can definitely relate to that. I guess for me, it's more like a feeling of detachment from other people, like alienation almost, that I feel like an alien compared to other people, that I see other people around me and I'm like, can these people perceive what I'm going through? Like, do these people experience this like depth of suffering? But that's also like, I also have to remind myself everybody is going through something in their own lives. So maybe they don't have the mental illness that I do, but they also do have their own form of suffering, that they also have something that's going on in their lives, that nobody's life is perfect.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Of like emotional maturity. Like I noticed that from you the first time I heard you speaking. You're emotionally very mature and you can articulate those feelings into words, into an intellectual sense, you know, that Aquarius energy you got going on. So I feel like that's like exactly where you're supposed to be. So it seems like a lot of suffering right now, but I think you will definitely be such a strong individual when all this is over, and you'll know exactly who you are.
Yeah, that's so true, because my Aquarius moon also does create that intellectualizing of my emotions, which is sometimes why they're hard for me to process internally, but I can put into words what I'm feeling, but sometimes it's hard for me, like, why am I feeling this way? Like I can be sad for days and then I realize days later, like, hey, I'm really sad. Why am I so sad? It's like, it's actually, yeah, you can relate.
Yeah, that detachment stuff gets tricky with the Aquarius. Some people, it's you know, like a place that they can go so that they can look at their feelings, like give space to look at their emotional self. And sometimes it's not, you know, an organized place because it doesn't work the same, you know. Aquarius is very intellectualized, but you very verbalize it great. You really do. You tell people how you feel.
Thank you guys so much.
Chanel, I had one thing to say for you, just to piggyback on all this wonderful stuff that people have had to share. And I do appreciate you a ton because all the, you know, that I think I coach people when I go through sessions with their Chiron. And I feel called to tell you this, that I feel like if you started doing that work with those teenagers that are struggling with that, you will find a lot of healing immediately. Because
Yeah.
I find that when I'm working with my Chiron, where I feel like Chiron is our disability in the chart, but it's our raw spot that helps us to be the amazing teachers. I feel like it will create a loop of energy for you. If you can reach out the sooner rather than later with this, I think you will find relief if you can find those people that are through group or whatever it might be to reach out and see their struggles and help them through that. I think it will be a huge like salve for your own wounds. And it's my therapy I do for myself too, with, you know, my own Chiron and my 6th house and an Aries. And for me, it's like, how do I help other people assert themselves in that Aries way when I don't always feel that, or I feel disabled in that way? Because it's like a disability, but that soft spot is what gets us closer to spirit. So look at your soft spot is the beautiful thorn in your side that might not always go away, but it reminds you that you're beautiful in this very sensitive way, and it will keep you connected. But I just feel like you will feel relief, and it helps me with the Chiron wound to go externally to help others. Like start doing the teaching now, I guess is my message. Like find a group of peeps or somebody you can mentor that would really, I think, help. Anyway,
Yeah, that is a really good idea. And my Chiron personally is in Libra, like Trey's. So yeah, relationships and just any kind of relationship in general has been a struggle in my life. Like I have had friendships that just really abruptly end, like really like in bad blood. And to this day, sometimes it still bothers me when I think of, oh, I feel so bad how that friendship with so-and-so ended that way. And I don't know, that is like a wound for me.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's okay to call that out and be like, this is the boogeyman. This is the monkey on my back, and just kind of make fun of it a little bit and be like, oh, you're cute. There you are again, you know, and be okay with it, you know, be okay. Because all of us have it somewhere. And just be okay with that kind of boogeyman, so to speak, being there, and just get more comfortable with the boogeyman or the dragon that's there. And once you kind of are like, okay, dragon, you pet it a little bit, and then you can kind of just, you know, it can detach a little bit more. You can get comfort.
I want to say, Chanel, like I had a similar, like it's hard to, when the relationships end and then it's like hard to even move forward. I found I would just write letters to them, but I wouldn't send it. I would just write it out. But it was such a great, just like emotionally writing that out and going through the things that I want to just say that I never get a chance to say. Because if sometimes like you're trying to talk to someone and they're never hearing, or you can't think of what you want to say. Really, you just need some time for yourself because there's too much. It's never like what you want to say, and you're always like, oh. So it's the perfect time just writing a letter, and you can spend time writing that letter. Like I think I spent like 2 weeks or just go back to it. But after, you can even print it, you can burn it, do your own ritual to kind of like let it cleanse out from you, because it's that closure, like that emotional, like the door is still open. You're just like, after you like go through the phases and the emotions, even within the letter, I feel like the ending of the letter is so different than how it first started. Because in the first, it's like there's so much hurt and pain and betrayal and what happened and what you did and how this happened, just moving through so many emotions. And you have to go through those stages of grief too, right? Of that relationship. So I find that helps. It's helped me. I still do it.
I really like that idea. Thank you.
Of course.
Those are some great ideas. I like that one where you said talking to yourself, you know, like in the car and all that.
I have a podcast. I have like 300 episodes that are just me.
Oh, shit. Your digital diary.
Yeah, like, and it's great.
That's
because
weird.
I would, if I'm ever like something's happening in my life, I'll go to I'll be like, what is my higher self, or what does you just want to teach me? And I'll go through like my podcast and I'll just pick a random one and I'll
record
listen.
them?
And I'll listen.
I love that.
Oh, you record them? You're next
Yeah,
level.
I record
then.
them.
I just I just talk and pretend like I'm talking to someone, like walking on walks and stuff. I'm really on my headphones
Because
talking
then
to
you hear
myself.
your own with your
fucking
own thing,
wild.
and then sometimes you like listen to what you've said before, and sometimes I'm like, what was I saying? It's just so funny too half the time. So, but a lot
Do
of
you
times I'm like,
Damn, I'll try that
Do you
shit.
have
And-
any Gemini placements?
me.
Yeah.
I don't know. My chart's in the chat. I'm hold on. Let me see.
Well, if you're like, the thing is, like, if you understand how therapists work and stuff, obviously it's more optimal to have like a real human there. But like, I don't know. I know therapy. I've been doing school long enough, so it's like I'd rather not spend the $120 or whatever. That's way less here. Just talk to myself and kind of think, like, answer how a normal therapist would answer when I really need to do that. And I do
It's
that for an
like-
hour, and then it's done. I feel better.
It's like nobody knows you better than yourself, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No matter
Yeah,
how
and
much you try to explain to somebody.
There's
And
this
I'm gonna
quote-
open up to myself better than I'm gonna
Look it
open up
up.
to anyone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
And you're not
finally
gonna
talk to some smart person, right?
I do so
Yeah,
much
exactly.
work on myself all the time. I remember my husband's like, you don't always have to be doing something. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm just sitting here. He's like, but you're thinking a lot. Because sometimes it's like not always the greatest to always be doing that.
And especially us in here, because we're all so intelligent and we have, this self knowledge that comes from astrology. I think really intelligent people can have kind of issues with therapy. At least for me personally, conventional
Yeah.
therapy sometimes doesn't work because it's too basic. Like for the normal mode of therapy, like that therapists use by default, is called cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. And for me, sometimes I'm like, this is too stupid. Like, I'm too smart for this. Like, and it's
Yo,
just,
it is.
yeah.
Like seriously, like I'm in school for therapy right now, and my tutor, he's like the best guy in the whole school, and he literally tells me, he's like, honestly, like 3/4 of the people in our class are just fucking stupid, and it's like he's a little bit cynical, but he's like, it'd be better to just like
one of them,
like
Justin?
he's like no, I'm one of the. I'm like, no, my grade. That's even proof. My grades are in the top 5 in my top 5 everyone in my class, and I'm not even fucking Romanian. That's like, but I'm still trying hard. But anyways, whatever. Like, basically, the point is like, there's a lot of dumb people who are therapists, and maybe they have their own problems, and they see so many. So it's like learning all this, it's made me really not trust therapists. But there are some amazing ones that exist. A lot of times they're expensive, so it's like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Sure.
Like NLP.
Not always,
stuff
though.
like that. Those
Bruh.
like, disappear.
These are
Yeah.
these are
But
these are the therapists that are here, bro.
yeah, for real.
I'll get there.
Either way, I feel like they still should be using astrology. Like,
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Especially moon.
I tried
nobody will-
that. I have an experience with that. I was at an internship when I went to Naropa that I lost, and they had these clients that they'd had coming in for years, no fucking work, whatever. The guy, I swear, the guy just comes in, he puts on his comedy show, like, trying to deflect with humor, and she just sits and just nods her head the whole fucking time. It's $120. And I was like, just let me see his chart. And I saw in his chart, he was like a Pisces, Aries moon. He had all these like opposition. They had 2 like major oppositions, but like they just were not willing to like, submit to like the intern having figured something out that could actually help them with the therapy, because like, and I'm not going to diss these people because they're not bad people, but maybe for them, even unconsciously, they're like, if we keep him here longer, it's more money. It's money for us each week. It's fine. It's fine with me if the guy doesn't heal. He's just gonna keep coming to therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I've
it's just-
recently been to a therapist because of the issues. My mom had heart attack. I had fears and anxiety, and I cried in front of the therapist, but I didn't see any sort of emotional reaction from him. He looked dead in the eyes to me and said,
Damn.
yeah, but you know what, yeah, tell me more about it. I'm like, I tell him things. I say, okay, I grew up in a really emotionally unstable environment. My dad doesn't help me, support me. I'm only 18 and my mom has had her second heart attack and blah blah blah. And in the end, even though I'm crying, there's no sympathy in his eyes, and he says,
Yeah.
"There's a problem in your brain."
What?
He legit says this. There's a problem in your brain.
Jesus.
You're sick from birth. Legit. He tells me this, and then he says, "Okay,
Wow.
you have depression. It's in your genes." I mean, that
What a
might be the problem, but I cried in front of you. Like, what about showing
Yeah.
some emotion or saying, "Are you okay?" He just
Yeah,
didn't give a fuck, and I just felt it, and I paid money. I'm so sorry about giving that money. Like, I wish I didn't give that money. Even just talking about you and listening Chanel makes me better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I thought
honestly,
there
Best therapist I
solve
had.
everything.
The best therapist I had. So I like for my teenage year, I went through the whole psychiatric thing, like put on meds, med after med after med after med. You know, same dead-eyed therapist talking over and over again. And the
Yeah.
best person I ever had was this free counselor at my university that I went in just because of desperation, pretty much. And I was just like in that session, and she was with me with every single emotion. Like, I started crying and tears were coming out of her eyes. Like, she followed me through every emotion. And that one 30-minute session of therapy was the most therapeutic thing ever, because what happens is we want to be seen, we want to be known and understood. And that's what, like, when you have good empathetic friends and you cry, they're not going to be like, "Oh, what can I help, like what can I do, like how can I help?" Or like, you know, they just know, they'll sit with you and they'll experience that pain with you, and you just move through it together. And there are, that lady gave me a glimpse that there are good therapists out there somewhere, even though
They're-
just
they're really hard to come by though. Like, there are some people in this field that are straight up freaking psychos. Like, there's honestly, I think a lot of psychiatrists are probably on the like narcissism kind of spectrum, like, or
Yes.
sociopathy.
Yeah, I think that's why Jesse went into it.
Oh.
We don't
No,
know
but
about that.
you're right. They almost like want to look at you like little, what are they called, like marionettes, and make fun of you, make fun of, like, "Oh, look at that idiot person," you know, like to their like psychology friends. But really, another tip is, if you find psychologists in training, like the ones who are still like in their master's program or in their in training, and they need to get their hours, you can actually get them for a lot cheaper. And they exist everywhere in the US. You'll find them. You just have to call the schools and ask, because for every therapist in training, you have to amass a certain amount of hours, and a lot of those hours are free. So you'll actually get like a better quality, human who's really willing to listen. And I think what happens with therapists is that over amount of time, you get like vulnerability. You just get burnt out from hearing so much fucking trauma. If very few therapists know how to like self-care and how to clear their own energy and how to not take on other people's energy. It's a real warrior, kind of like a spiritual warrior type profession. So that's why I think, like, if you find someone like who's just starting or still in school, one, it's going to be cheaper, maybe even free, and you're not going to have to deal. They're going to be really there and listening.
It requires compassion, yo, and it's compassion. I feel like it's something that really can't be taught by another person, but it can be experienced. So
that's true.
So it's like qualifications are nowadays. I mean, Trump was president. What did he go to school for? So like the qualifications of a healer to a therapist is like, what's the differences? It's like that one like the therapist that you said, I think it was Trey that said the therapist that helped him and went through every emotion was like a healer. So she had that sense of energy, but she had to have that, like, maybe like Chanel, she carries that compassion for other people.
Yeah.
Because she's been through it, so yeah.
I also feel like in general, like even with like therapists or any kind of like field, even like doctors and stuff, like there's so much like information like that they have to like put people in boxes or groups, or like, oh, these are the symptoms, or these are the things, it goes to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever it is.
Very
Really,
dogmatic.
we're not physical.
Yes.
Like we're seen as like a machine, but we're not just like a physical body. Like we have so many different emotional, mental, spiritual, like, right? So I think they get so brainwashed thinking this is the only way to think in this linear way rather than this like quantum way of learning.
That goes on all levels in society right now.
yeah.
Exactly.
same
Like
with
the prison systems, like, yo,
Everywhere. Yeah.
I have, my brother was just sentenced 50 last year for 50 years to life. My younger brother. You know,
Oh,
so
I'm so sorry.
it's a fucked up, it's crazy. You guys, I'll put a story out one day and I'll share it with everybody. But yeah, so like he was basically overcharged. Like he was fucking like 19 when he took a woman's life protecting my mom. You know, like it was a crazy situation, but basically that happened. And so the way I saw the court system was just so fucked up. Like I've been in juvenile hall and experiencing that, but the approach to it, it seems to lack the sympathy. You know, like the jury that they bring upon people. Like it's just random ass strangers that have no clue or idea of what your life was like, rather than a community, like tribal like times when people when committed crimes, they would get the people together to decide what the disciplines were. You know what I mean? What fit correctly, rather than just kind of like saying, oh no, you did this, so you're gonna get this amount. You know, but there's so many variables to.
So many different things in all of that too. Like the variables of where it happens or the kind of rules are different here versus different there. You know, I just read a story about a guy that just got out of prison because of all this COVID stuff. They're trying to let more people out. And he was only in for a couple offenses beforehand. One of them was violent though. He like had a gun trying to hurt somebody, but they let him out. And then he went to wherever he was staying, the next door neighbor and cut her heart out, and then went home and cooked it and tried to force the family to eat it. Like all this craziness, and they let him out of jail. You know what I'm saying? Like that is insane. When I read that, I was like, are you serious? Like they're letting people out that are gonna go do things like that?
Yeah, it's
You
not
know,
a,
so what's
it's not a-
okay here versus there? Like the
The
rules
approach is all
stuff.
wrong in there too. It's like, you know, like
Yeah.
it's like they're letting the wrong people go and letting the ones that really kind of like have a chance. They're just
Right, like
fucking with
drug
them.
charges. Why are drug charges so much more than like some rape cases or violent
Exactly.
cases? That
Yeah.
makes no sense to
and
me.
there's no rehabilitation. And in the US, the prison system, I think in 2020, generated a $74 billion profit because every prison is privately owned, and then within the prison is free labor.
Yeah.
And then they produce things and make profit from the prisoners. So
Mhm.
that's why
It's like its own
people
slave.
that's why it's so fucked, because it makes so much money.
Yeah.
They also say like America takes up like 5% of the world population, yet 25% of the
Right.
prison population.
And in the way the Constitution is written, they're considered slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have no rights.
Mm-mm.
They have
No
no right.
voting.
They say like the prison system is modern day slavery, because literally look what that's happening right now. Like who's being put in, who's being kept, who's not being kept. And they said
You know,
during COVID, they did let out a lot of people with things like that people this didn't even know what was happening because of those prisoners leaving. And it was just like horrible stories, just like what you said, Kendra.
Right. And what's so
There's so much.
sad is that we don't even know, like the guy that went into prison, was he like that, or did prison make him like that?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because he went in for like, I think he had like crack cocaine and he had a gun or something, and he was waving it at somebody. He was in a domestic type situation with drugs, right? But he goes in like that, and then to come out and do that, like you just don't know if the system made him like that.
Yeah.
So,
you know, there's a Netflix series where I think this guy he did like 10 years in London. He was like they accused him of bank robbing banks. Yeah, you seen it? and it's crazy how different countries handle
Yeah.
the situations, right? Like you see the ones in the
I was
Netherlands.
just gonna say something.
Yeah, sure,
Just
go for it.
honestly, I just literally wanted to say exactly the same thing that you say in Iceland and Norway, I think, and Denmark, they have like the prisons basically looking like a hotels. Like you're allowed to use your mobile phone. You're literally in the brand new building. You got all that, like you get better flats than normal people like living lives, you know.
And those are
And
motherfuckers that
they're
kill
allowed.
people too. And they kill people
Yeah,
too. They have killers like just like having
yeah.
fucking like decked out fucking places and shit. It's
Right.
sad. That's fucking
Yeah.
sad.
There's something wrong with the way that we deal with people in the criminal system and with our homeless people. Like I just watched that Elisa Lam documentary, and the whole time I was so upset about Skid Row. Like I couldn't get over the fact that people just throw their homeless in Skid Row in California. I didn't
I've been
know
there.
that. Like I didn't know that their political groups just do that, like just to put them over there and act like they don't exist. I don't know. I just feel like that's wrong to do.
Honestly, yo, as we're talking about this, I feel the healing. Like right now, we're all getting it out. We're like becoming aware of it. Like this is proof that human consciousness is elevating to that level. We can't take this shit anymore. You know, the
Yeah.
fall of the old Roman Empire, it's coming. Like it's
Yeah.
the system is collapsing, and out of this whole thing, we're just gonna like look at life differently. You know, the crimes against humanity will be revealed. It's
Mhm.
being revealed right now. You know what I'm saying? So this is a huge transformation, and I think our awareness of this, like as we're talking, is highlighting that. You know, so I'm like glad everybody is. I'm glad everybody else right here is seeing, you know, and resonating with the same things I am.
Yeah. It's just not okay. Hopefully things will change because I mean I think that's the only thing that can happen. You know, it's like the breaking down of the systems and whatnot.
And the whole crisis of prisons and homelessness is also connected to the system of mental health institutions, because a lot of people with severe mental illness like severe schizophrenia or bipolar disorder do become homeless because they become so disabled to a point that they can't take care of themselves, or that they become a victim of like extreme drug addiction and etc. And so they're cycling in and out of prisons or mental hospitals, which if you're in a really bad mental hospital, and the quality of the hospital is also affected by the income level of what neighborhood that it's in. So like I've noticed that you will get a lot better treatment in a neighborhood that's like more pleasant and, you know, like a richer neighborhood, but as opposed to in my city where it's not like that. The quality of the hospital is really, really poor, and it feels like a prison, legit. Like being in a psych ward can legit feel like prison, and it makes you realize that it's just the most vulnerable people of society, that this can include like people of different marginalized groups that end up just
You
bouncing
should,
back and forth.
Chanel, you're gonna create like some type of fucking rehabilitation center that's like that revolves around spirituality and like I'm telling you, like nature and like
I
there
will
has to
help
be,
you.
yeah.
I would love
So
that.
Kendra guys, you guys, everybody
Yeah.
is like, you know, like that's something I could see you doing because we need to change our approach on how we heal. You know what I
I've
mean? Like,
contemplated it. I've contemplated that so much because the mental health system of hospitals doesn't work, because look at how much the more that once someone ends up in there, I feel like they're more likely to go back. Like they're actually more likely to relapse and to get really depressed again or overdose again or whatever it is, because it's the same thing as the prisons. A mental health hospital doesn't rehabilitate. It's meant to keep you on that medication because you know what the psychiatrists want? They don't want you to get better, because then you're not going to go back to them and they're not going to keep
That's
getting
less
their
money.
fucking insurance money. Exactly.
Yeah,
So
it's less money
that,
for them. That's what I was
yeah.
gonna say. I worked in the pharmacy. I used to be a pharmacy tech, and I had to get out of the medical field because it enraged me so much. Like just seeing that nobody cared, and these people that were taking pharmaceuticals that were killing them, but their doctors wouldn't tell them, you know, how bad it was for them. And, you know, it's just like, it's all about the money. And so I feel like it's sad, but true. Like what Jesse was saying, like trying to find a therapist that's like new in the game and like it's fresh and they're excited about it and stuff is probably the best way to go. Because yeah, the longer you're in the healthcare field, the more you see it. And I got into it because I'd had that brain tumor, and and those nurses were so awesome to me, and I was like, I want to change people's lives like they.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is a small amount of people that actually want to change lives. The rest of it just want to make money.
Yeah, because some of them just get so desensitized.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've also been like Kendra said, like my mom used to do some stuff as well with like some pharmacy and stuff. And since I was a little kid, I used to always skip the pills. Like if I was sick or anything, I would used to hide them behind my bed or like everywhere. I never wanted to take them because I just had like that feeling that that is not good for me. That's actually not going to help me. And later on, I found out like so much crap about any kind of medicine. Like I'm not saying 100% all, but like most of it. It just basically makes you addicted and makes you take more and stuff. And my granddad was really ill with Lyme sickness, and he was popping pills like for 30 years in his life. And trust me, guys, that doesn't give you anything better. They just keep prescribing you more stronger and stronger medication and just getting sicker and more sick, And he was losing his memory and tons of things like, and I think that herbal medicine, like homeopathical medicine, is something that works for me. I don't know for you, but I always works for me. If I'm ill with fevers or any kind of sick, like I believe there is something else, but there are so many different ways that you can help.
This is coated silver. It's nanoparticles of silver. It kills viruses and bacteria. It's from Symbiotica. You guys should check it out. I think Jesse, you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I think that was what I followed, right?
Yo, so like they said, like the approach is like off, yo. Like it's so out of balance with nature. Like they just want to like give you a pill for everything, and it's so funny. Like those advertisements, like those advertisements that they fucking try to sneak in all those fucking side effects.
Dude,
oh my god.
that's why I get enraged. I can be watching TV. You can be watching just a regular lighthearted show on TV, and then I get pissed off because I see advertisements for like Latuda or for Abilify or medications that I've already taken that I know that they don't fucking work. And then I see it and it pisses me off because I'm like, why is this advertisement so misleading? First of all, why is a medication even commercialized like this? Like, it's fucking weird. And it's
programming.
I find it more like in the US than like in the Western countries. Like, because in Canada, we don't have that. And when I would watch American shows, I'm like, why is
we don't either really have it?
Why is every commercial like this?
It's capitalism. They want to make money and they want to target audience. Like that's what it is. They're targeting their audience. They're like showing somebody jumping through grass. And they're like, look how wonderful it feels.
Yeah, it's just it's a deception, right? It's a lot of it's deception.
You know what's really fucked up, yo, is like society, like I noticed like a lot of people go out to eat, like even myself included, and I'm working on it myself. But we became so dependent on them. Like even they throw that shit in our face, like, oh, McDonald's causes cancer. Like they put up all these fucking things to tell us that it's fucking bad for us, and we still do it. You know what I'm saying? We're still all like on a conscious, like mass conscious level. We're still like doing it. And it's time for us to change, yo. Like, what are some ways? Like, let's talk solutions. What are some ways you think that we could change this shit? Like, for me, I think we gotta localize our communities. You know what I mean? Like, really.
Yeah, that's a good start. So we're not all ordering Amazon.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all part of that problem, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, I see a lot of people shopping at Walmart, yo. Like, that's a big ass problem. Like, everybody up, because I moved from Orange County to Victorville, and it's up in the desert and shit. So like everybody goes to like these 2 Walmarts only to get our shit. And like and during this whole pandemic, a lot of like mom and pop shops like closed down too. So everything's like getting corporatized and like fucking, you know what I'm saying? So
right, it's all gonna come on Amazon next year. You're gonna be able to get anything you want only on Amazon.
For me, something that I'm trying to do, I think I mentioned this with Jesse, is that like investing into like elemental assets, like the Kangen machine that I just received actually is, I thought about it. I'm gonna just start selling water. I'm gonna start giving away Kangen water to homeless people. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
that'd be good.
Giving
That's
water, Kangen water to homeless people, and then like just, you know, selling it cheaper than the rest of everybody else's water. I mean, it's coming out of, you know, the faucet, but it's just
I was thinking we could like buy bulk, what do you call those, life straws? Like that you can drink water out of a puddle of water. Like it's a life straw. It basically filters any water. So you can drink clean water anywhere in the world. Like you can drink out of a lake, you can drink out of a pond, things like that. I was gonna start like trying to buy those in bulk to hand out to people too. So everybody has clean water.
nice. Yeah, I think that's something I really want to be involved in creating a new economy, you know, honestly, like being in tune with more with nature. That's why I'm so invested in silver. Like I really believe in silver, and I think it could change the way we operate our economy. You know, like in Utah, I'm not sure if you guys heard about this, but they have these things called gold bucks. They're like gold laminated or minted, I don't know what the word is, but they're like dollars that are represent a certain amount of gold. That's a certain amount of percentage of Utah, all of Utah takes it. So like it's something that's been going around, you know. But I'm just trying to think of solutions, you know, because and it just starts at first. It starts with ourselves and in our home, you know, and then it starts in our local communities. So I'm just trying to get involved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I love this
Yeah, I
one
mean,
guy
just
I saw on Instagram who he gives haircuts to everybody. Have you seen him? That guy that goes around to the homeless communities and gives everybody a haircut for free?
No.
Seen that guy? He's pretty awesome. I can't remember his name, but I saw him on Instagram. One of those videos made me cry. It was just so heartfelt. But he goes and just gives people's free haircuts, like people that haven't had a haircut in years, you know? He's just like this barber that just like drives around to homeless areas and gives people haircuts.
Nice.
hey guys, I gotta either go to bed pretty soon. If you guys want to keep talking, I don't know. I could like, yeah, it's like
been a
2
minute.
here. I could like leave this on. Yeah, I can like leave this on a little bit. If you guys feel like, I don't know, talking another 10 minutes or so. But yeah, because I have to close out of here in order for the recording to actually process.
Okay, well,
So
Yeah, for sure. We'll link up, man.
yeah, we can just end it on this point then, or you guys
Yeah,
want?
it's been a minute.
Yeah, I think we've done good today. Kind of a freestyle Pisces session. It was cool. It was cool to just kind of let it flow. Maybe we'll do that more. I mean, I like I've told you guys, like this isn't like a premeditated like group like where I, you know, like, and also if you guys have any like, I'm saying like a lot, that's how I know I'm tired. Any ideas that come to you, like downloads about things that would be interesting to talk about, you know, I don't have a monopoly on coming up with the subjects. It's totally, you know, just message me or say in the group. I'm totally, you know, all ears for that.
cool.
Oh.
So yeah, it's been very good, guys.
Hey,
Very
everybody
interesting.
smile. I'm gonna take a picture.
Very.
All right, ready?
What's
I'm
that?
gonna take a picture.
I should take
Okay.
that. I should have said that when I took
Gabby.
mine.
Everybody can. All right, you guys ready?
No, I'm not ready. Oh, okay.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it.
All right,
Cool.
Alex is gonna come.
All right, for sure.
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat.
All right,
peace
guys.
out.
Yeah, I posted one of us, but no one was smiling.
Yes, Jesse,
I like
you
to
wasted me.
sneak
I
up.
look absolutely worst.
You look
I like
good.
to sneak up on you guys.
All right, y'all. Much peace and love. See you guys in chat.
Oh,
Yeah,
see you guys.
see you guys.
Thank you.
Bye, love
Pleasure.
you guys.
All right, much love.
Love
Love you
y'all.
guys. Peace.